Hey now, we are getting over, and I am the Silver King, Adam Silverstein, here to lead you through these hard times. With the latest WWE edition of your favorite professional wrestling podcast. That's right, Getting Over is back once again, and we are here not only to break down everything that happened on Monday Night Raw and Friday Night SmackDown, we will be providing you with an ultimate preview for 2026 WWE Clash in Italy. Vintage Chris Vanini will be along for the ride momentarily, but before we get to him, we need to get to this, and that is a reminder that the Getting Over Wrestling podcast
is all about Defy.
So please, folks,
stop being marks for yourselves and go back to being a mark for me.
Go back to being marks for the Silver King Vintage and Getting Over. Head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave a 5-star rating on Apple. Take a little extra time. Leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read it live right here on the show. And don't forget to follow us on social media at Getting Overcast on Twitter and Blue Sky. You get episode drops, news, analysis, highlights. You can send in questions and comments for the show. For WWE Clash in Italy, we will post pre and post-show polls on Twitter, but we will also do that on our free Slack channel, which you can subscribe to by clicking the link in our social media profiles. Make sure you go ahead and do that. You can also subscribe to us on YouTube, where you can listen to the show and you can watch full-length video interviews across the board. No matter where you want to find us on social media, you can do it at Getting Overcast. Now, Chris will not be here at the early part of this show. He has a bunch of stuff to do. He's about to cover the Big 12 spring meeting somewhere in Texas for the better part of the next, I believe, 3 days. So Silver King is going to tackle the open of the show, but Vintage will be around for the main event, for the WWE Clash in Italy Ultimate Preview, and for at least a portion of the good, the bad, and the ugly. All of that, of course, is coming up.
But I'm afraid I've got some news.
So there's actually a few items to discuss as we get into today's show. First, Asuka on Thursday last week addressed her WWE status in a YouTube video. The long and short of it is that she is still with WWE, but stepped away for a personal matter and will likely be part-time going forward. If you go to our social media accounts at Getting Overcast, you scroll back to May 21st, you can read everything she said translated into English. Now, it's important to know that whenever she addresses herself as a wrestler, she does it somewhat in character with a lot of ego, deserved ego, yet ego nonetheless. So when you read her words, just take that into consideration. But it's great to hear that she'll still be wrestling on and off for WWE. As I said after Backlash, what feels most likely is that we do not see her again until the Royal Rumble. Now, this was addressed on Thursday's show, but I will mention it here as well. Ludwig Kaiser, real name Marcel Barthel, was arrested for misdemeanor battery in Orlando, Florida. It was an incident that occurred, I believe, a month ago, but it required him to come back into the United States to turn himself in, as there was a warrant out for his arrest. He does not have any travel restrictions, and it's unlikely that this results in anything. The two versions of the story are quite disparate, and violence against another person is just, it's rarely acceptable. But as far as Getting Over understands it, there will be zero internal discipline coming his way from WWE. And, because it's a misdemeanor first offense and not that much happened here, he was let out on $1,000 bail. It'll probably either get dismissed or he'll have to do some community service, pay a fine. It's not going to be a big deal at the end of the day. Daily Star in the United Kingdom reported Monday that the former Killian Dane and Nikki Cross have officially purchased Progress, the area's biggest wrestling promotion. That is awesome for them. Probably great news for Progress too. And it's almost certainly a tremendous development for women's wrestling over in Europe. So congratulations to Killian and Nikki. Netflix this week spent a decent amount of time praising the WWE relationship, saying it has exceeded the company's expectations. They shared that WWE content recently launched in Italy and Germany, and they announced it will be available in Japan later this year, which is huge for WWE. On the negative tilt regarding WWE on Netflix, it seems as if ads are on their way to being included in some international feeds. I believe Canada was hit last night. I did not watch live, but through my French feed on replay, I was not served any ads. It may be a country hopping situation as they get phased in. They do them in the UK, you use France. You do them in France, you use Germany, so on and so forth. I assume there will at least be some countries that never get ads. We'll just have to find which ones those are. But what that also means is that those of you who are outside the United States but listen to the show may also be potential NordVPN.com/gettingover customers. We'll circle back to that as this rollout continues. Regarding WWE on ESPN, the last Silver King heard, it is expected to get rolled out for YouTube TV customers before SummerSlam. We are just over 2 months away from that. I will most likely have a better update in 4 to 5 weeks. WWE also, they seem to have either taken notes from what we spoke about on the show last week or the last few weeks, or someone internally was at least thinking identically to us. If you have noticed, they've recently been opening shows with actual content or segments rather than the reduced energy arena arrivals. They are still doing those, but they're doing them after the openers into the commercial break. And that is perfectly fine. It's far better by comparison. I am wondering whether Vintage noticed it the same as I did. He's not here right now. We'll have to talk about that at another time. Let's see if it continues for another week or if it was just an aberration for 1 week. And lastly, I just want to send a huge thank you to Danhausen.
Thank you!
Thank you for uncursing my New York Knickerbockers, who just played the greatest 11-game stretch in NBA history. Not postseason history, NBA history. Record winning margins, consecutive playoff sweeps, first NBA Finals for the Knicks in 27 years, a chance to win the first championship in 53 years, a defector from Detroit. He turned his back on the Pistons and Vintage to create this historic opportunity for my Knicks. I have decided to go up and visit the Mecca for games 3 and 4 of the NBA Finals. I will have human monies at the ready if he is in attendance. WWE, by the way, they should run Madison Square Garden as soon as possible if this all goes down. Move a show. Who cares? Put a PLE there. Put a Saturday night's main event there. Pay whatever you have to pay. This is potentially historic. It's undoubtedly insane. And if they can make the Danhausen Knicks connection, ESPN loves it. A lot of fans love it. It's their home market, New York, obviously. Silver King could not be any more excited. And if I sound tired during this episode, well, folks, not only did I stay up to watch everything that transpired inside the NBA, the celebration, usually people doom scroll on social media. I was celebratory scrolling on social media until the wee hours of the night. And that was after also watching Monday Night Raw. So Silver King was up crazy late. I'm exhausted right now, but nevertheless, here at Getting Over, we always strive to deliver performance-enhancing audio directly into your ear holes. Let's go, Knicks. Now, before we get into the main event, allow me to welcome in Vintage Chris Vanini, who should be with us either for the duration of the show or at least the vast majority of what is remaining here on the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. Vintage, Silver King had to watch Raw on Monday night delayed because, as I already mentioned here on the show, my New York Knickerbockers have advanced to the NBA Finals for the first time since 1999. I'm assuming you at least watched a portion of the show live. Did you find it, like I did, a pretty strong, maybe even surprisingly strong follow-up to Saturday night's main event over the weekend?
I thought it was one of the strangest Raws I'd watched in a while.
Interesting.
Some stuff was incredibly strong.
Mm-hmm.
Some stuff felt like there had been zero preparation whatsoever. The promos on this show, the number of people who just forgot where they were or just had awkward pauses and trying to figure out what was coming next was all over the show. So it was just a very scattered show. Some of it was really good. Some of it was just do you even know what you're doing out there? And so I don't know. I had very weird feelings coming out of Raw.
So I know we don't want to give much away because we want to, discuss it and break it down through the remainder of the program. I only noticed that about promos 2 times, both involving men. Are we potentially on the same line there?
Yes, I had more than 2, but yeah.
Okay. All right. So we'll get to that momentarily. We have a ton to discuss here on the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. The order of operations through the end of the show will be the good, the bad, and the ugly, and of course your WWE Clash in Italy Ultimate Preview coming up. But first, of course, we do need to do what we always do and begin our breakdown of everything that happened across Monday Night Raw and Friday Night SmackDown by sliding into the main event.
This is the main event.
Another 2-part main event for you today. Nick Aldis backstage told Cody Rhodes on SmackDown that Gunther has yet to arrive at the building for the show. Therefore, the contract has not been signed. However, as far as he was concerned, Gunther is the number one contender, and the Clash in Italy match was official. Sami Zayn then approached Rhodes as he turned around, offering advice on how to handle Gunther, considering, he defeated him at WrestleMania. Cody rebuffed him with extreme prejudice, which led to Sami going on a rant about no one listening to him. He also asked Aldis why he hasn't returned any calls about his responsibilities for SmackDown. Aldis said, look, bro, time is tight. And that led to Zayn, again, freaking out about being one of the best and most popular superstars on the show, yet not getting his allotted time like Rhodes, the golden boy, would any single time he asks for it. Cody overheard that, came back into the picture, absolutely infuriated at Sami's stance, and him again putting his name in his mouth, demanding a match. Zayn looked like he saw a ghost when this was all over. If you listened to last week's show, you know my exact problem with this segment. For those who did not, last week, Gunther became a firm number one contender by beating Royce Keys. However, he had not signed the contract, which had been the basis of their storyline across 2 prior weeks of TV. It's the whole payoff of the Paul Heyman favor. An hour after SmackDown ended last week, Paul Levesque on Twitter announced the title match as official, except they didn't pay off the contract signing anywhere, so how could it be official? Well, my presumption was he signed it off screen, and it's stupid that they ended the storyline that way, but that's what they did. So now, 7 days later, we're back on SmackDown with the contract still unsigned, even though the match was announced, and your general manager is saying it's official. Details effing matter, okay? And it's ridiculous that SmackDown has bungled this the last 2 weeks. Other than that, which was only really one line from this segment, but it pissed me off, I enjoyed the rest of this. The Cody-Sami beef coming to a head that needed to happen at some point, and the back and forth, the way in which it was like blocked out, it worked well to make you believe on 2 different occasions that it was over, only for it to ratchet up a bit more. So it was enjoyable. That part was logical, and it resulted in a significant first time ever singles match between 2 great wrestlers, even though I don't believe WWE promoted it as much on the show. But the Gunther of it all bothered the hell out of me.
Yeah, like, why hasn't he signed yet? What is even the reason? I'm so confused.
Yeah.
Like, we're here. The show is this week. Like, what is the match has been announced? What is even the drama here? It's just so weird that we keep going week to week of like, that's what I'm like, do they even know what they're doing here? Like, are we getting somewhere? So that was weird. But yes, I was glad we got the Sami Cody stuff. I was surprised we got it like now.
Mm-hmm.
I'd been wondering like when it was going to come to a head and all that kind of stuff. And it just happening on SmackDown was like, oh, okay. Like, so that was, it got me interested for later in the show as we're coming to the end soon of these 3-hour Raws.
Yeah, I believe
SmackDowns.
I believed Sami might actually be the feud after Gunther, whether Cody retained the title or not at Clash in Italy. It made a lot of sense to do that. But yeah, the Gunther of it all, again, just to reiterate, the whole storyline is he attacked Cody from behind, then it was revealed that he basically worked a trade or transfer over to SmackDown. Paul Heyman did that for the favor and got him a title match in Europe. And he just needed to sign those papers. And he didn't do it initially because Cody upstaged him. Okay, that's fine. That's logical. He's a heel. Cool. But after 2 weeks, sign the contract. Like, what are we waiting for at this point? Especially once you officially become number one contender. And they just didn't do it, announced the match, and still haven't signed the contract. So Sami Zayn backstage was smacking his water bottles off one road case and another before coming across another catatonic planking Johnny Gargano, who lent a friendly ear because he basically had no other choice. Zayn ranted about always having Rhodes back and trying to do the right thing. He said he feels like he's the last real good guy left, one who always does what's right in his heart, no matter how unpopular it might be. When Sami left, Johnny lifted a finger and knocked over the lone unaffected water bottle, which was very funny. Cody backstage said he may be friends with Sami, but he doesn't understand this passive-aggressive, condescending version of his personality. Rhodes said he was motivated to take the match because he needed to hold Zayn accountable, and Gunther was welcome to watch ringside or even join commentary if he so wanted. I'd have liked the first part a little bit more if Johnny had rolled his eyes when Sami left, and I'm starting to wonder whether his interactions with Sami will lead to Gargano breaking out of his funk. Like someone's quiet and they're reserved, whatever, but someone is so annoying that they can't take it anymore. So maybe that's what they're doing with Gargano because he just can't stand Zayn complaining and ranting at him. So he's forced to react and they wind up having a match. If that happens and Gargano subsequently beats Sammy as an underdog, that would be the perfect way to jumpstart his rehabilitation as a singles performer. We'll just have to see on that. That was more valuable and interesting than Cody's promo, which was rather basic, though it did well to paint Sammy in an unflattering light. And Zayn has fully committed to this role, which is coming across in his performance. I know there are some people out there who are like iffy on what Sammy is doing. It's a pretty deep, compelling character compared to a lot of surface level stuff we get in professional wrestling in totality. And if they are legitimately building him all the way to WrestleMania next year as a, babyface underdog champion, then they're making some real nice steps in the early going about 6 weeks coming out of last WrestleMania.
Yeah, agree with you on the Gargano point. Like, that would be a natural way to kind of break out of what he's doing here. And I like this version of Sammy where he believes he's still the good guy. He's found a good balance with that, including in the promo he did in the ring a week ago or so. So that's interesting. It's a character. It's explaining his thought process in terms of what he's doing instead of he's complaining, but he feels like he's right to complain.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like that. I thought that was good. Cody was, it was what it was. It fits into Cody's whole, the thing he's doing now, easy to find, hard to beat, whatever, trying to be an active fighting champion or at least fighter. So it worked.
And it's not just heel complaining. It's delusional babyface who's actually a heel, or delusional guy who thinks he's a babyface, but is actually a heel complaining. And that's working very well for him. So we had Rhodes and Zayn non-title match. This obviously main evented. It started late enough to know nothing serious was going to happen between the bells. Cody hit a Cody cutter on one leg as it was being worked earlier by Sammy. He did a great job selling it before a terrific spot where Zayn pounced Rhodes off the apron all the way onto the announce table for a 9.5 count. Sammy got what sure as shit looked like a 3 count on Cody during a pinning combination. He followed with a blue thunderbomb for a 2.5. Zayn followed that with a figure 4 leg lock that got reversed. Cody answered that with a disaster kick, only for Gunther to hop on the apron and put Rhodes in a sleeper hold. Sammy charged at him to take advantage, but Cody dodged him into Gunther, and then he beat Sammy with crossroads. Gunther attacked after the bell. He hit some strikes and a powerbomb. Sammy ran in, seemingly to save Cody, but he ended up just watching as Gunther locked in the sleeper, ultimately leaving the ring to Booze while completing his heel turn. The match was then announced on TV as official, even as commentary told us the contract was not yet signed, which was completely flummoxing. They brought the contract up twice on this episode, a 3-hour show, still didn't sign it, yet announced the match as official on TV after Paul Levesque had already done so a week earlier on social media. You'll hear me mention this often in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, but there were 5 matches on SmackDown Friday. This was the 4th one with a distraction and or interference finish, which was incredibly frustrating. Cody and Sammy, they worked well together. The wrestling was strong. The character development with Zayn at the end was great, him becoming a full heel. It was one of the best parts of SmackDown, actually, especially when you consider his history with Gunther and how that added to the impact of him not helping Rhodes, because it was against a heel who he actually hates. But again, continuing a trend, this could have been even more impactful. Let's say Gunther bludgeoned Cody outside of the ring, did that powerbomb into the announce table or the ring apron, used power forearms to knock him out rather than the sleeper hold. Then he pulls out the contract, signs it, drops it on Cody's dead body. It wraps up the contract aspect. It makes Gunther look like an even bigger beast, and it draws greater heat from the crowd. I came up with that right now while we're talking. It's impossible for me to understand how WWE has a team of 20 to 30 creative people, and no one can come up with or agree that what I just explained would be a better option. The signing of the contract now has 0 value. The entire concept using Paul Heyman's favor to get the contract made, to get him transferred over to SmackDown, largely wasted. The only explanation can be if they somehow slide a stipulation in next week, and that's the reason why the contract hasn't been signed, because Gunther is going to be a heel, or Heyman, he's going to use Heyman to get him something extra 24 hours before the match. If they do that, it'll make sense, and I have no problem recanting a little bit of what I'm saying, but they would have to pull that trigger, and I don't know that they're going to.
Well, no, it wouldn't make sense. He hasn't signed the contract. How can they announce the match, which they've now done twice? Like, this just literally makes no sense.
Yeah.
I'm so confused by this. Like, if if the story was like, will they have the match? And then the stipulation at the end makes it happen, sure. But they've literally said the match is happening. If you're watching this show, you are immensely confused why there is a match, what the point of signing the contract is. It makes no sense to me. Now, this coming SmackDown this Friday, is that in Italy or is it a pre-tape?
It's in Italy, airing at 2 p.m. Eastern in the United States.
Okay.
Live on Netflix if you use nordvpn.com/gettingover.
So I'm assuming then it will happen. It has to, does it have to happen on SmackDown? Do they have to sign it or no? Because they've already announced the match.
I think they do.
I don't know. So,
but like, are you really going to do a contract signing segment where nothing else happens after you just got on Monday night a contract signing segment where nothing else happened?
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see, I guess. But it's not the most important thing because we know the match is happening. It's just very stupid.
It's very stupid. Yeah.
As for the match, I liked it. Good wrestling. I didn't know it was the first time these two guys had fought. Like you had mentioned, that would have been good to know.
Yeah.
And I loved the way Sammy approached the end of it. That is the classic spot where guy thinks he's, not even in wrestling, but in life. Guy thinks he's a good person, thinks he does the right things, thinks he's generally a good guy. Then he comes across something where he may have to get involved to stop a bad thing from happening, doesn't know what to do, and just kind of leaves and maybe tries to pretend it didn't happen.
Yeah.
And that but that he's still a good guy. It's the ultimate like conflicting situation. And I thought Sammy just kind of watching that and just letting it and kind of backing, as opposed to like if he had jumped in and kicked Cody and done whatever, that would have been the classic wrestling thing. But instead, to have him just watch it, think about it, and not do anything was far more interesting from a character perspective. And now he will have to explain it.
Yeah.
Not only to himself, but to the audience, to Sammy, to whoever, as he still tries to think he's a good guy. And I'm interested in that.
You know what's interesting? What he's doing is extremely Kevin Owens coded. And I know that there's a lot of wrestlers who can do that type of character, but this is like an amalgamation of Sammy and KO in one dude. The way he's acting, he's simultaneously using logic, but also getting upset at things that he shouldn't be getting upset about because he thinks he's good and everyone's against him, even though he's really bad and we all notice it. And to your point, yeah, it's like, you know, we all tell ourselves, I would guess, most of us listening, if you saw a guy stealing a woman's purse, you're going to try to stop that and go after him and get the purse. But then when it happens in reality, what if he has a gun or a knife? Am I putting myself in danger? Can I even catch up to him? Do I know this woman? Why am I risking my life? So it's different, right? To some degree, but it is a conflict that we all face in our lives at some point or another. How good of a guy or girl, depending who's listening, how good are we when we're actually confronted with something that makes us or forces us to make a decision, basically? So I found it extremely compelling, what the Sammy part of it. They just have to not get into the cartoon aspect because you can make it cartoonish. You know what I mean? Yeah, I was serious.
So like I was thinking Spider-Man a little bit. Like
great example.
Spider-Man lets the robber go, and then the robber kills his Uncle Ben. Right. You know, and that type of thing, and he becomes Spider-Man. Or later when he gives up Spider-Man and he walks by an alley and someone's getting beaten up asking for help and he doesn't help.
He knows he can do something. He should do something, but he doesn't do something. Right.
Yeah. So like I would love to like linger on that for a while and not just have Sammy come out and immediately like call himself a heel. Maybe say that. Maybe I didn't want to get involved because Gunther was going to beat me up or something like that. Like continue to find the excuses.
Yeah, it should be a slow. It should be a slow morph heel and then a slow morph face on the back end. If you're going to have him win the Royal Rumble and go to WrestleMania, you have so much time to get there. You can definitely do both versions of the character. And that is where also, look, we don't know what's happening with Kevin Owens in terms of his neck and his health. I know he wants to get back in WWE. That's the general concept. Like he is not retired. It's not a Big E situation, right? Until it, knock on wood, doesn't become one, hopefully. But whether he is cleared to wrestle or not, KO returning to the show 6 months from now and being the angel on Sammy's shoulder as opposed to the devil, and turning him back babyface and helping him understand, the potential of what he can accomplish and so on, dragging him out of the depths of despair. It's just, there's so much they can do with this. And, that show, the Saudi Arabia show at WrestleMania, it is a huge tentpole event for WWE, the first ever international WrestleMania. We may not like the blood money in the sand stuff, and we criticize it here on the show, and, I'll tweak it all the way up and through that, show happening. But it's extremely important business-wise for the company, and it is a huge tentpole for WWE to do an international WrestleMania. And it's possible they don't go with Sammy at all, and they just stick with Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns. Maybe The Rock wrestles, and, they platform another big name. Obafemi is in the main event or something like that. But it does seem like Sammy is positioned to have a really big moment on that show, and that moment cannot be in the mid-card. It has to be with a world title. And they have a long way to get there. We'll see what happens. The other half of this main event is actually not Roman Reigns and Jacob Fatu. We're going to save that for the Ultimate Preview later. It is a longer storyline that happened Monday night on Raw involving The Vision, which started with an announcement that Logan Paul has torn his triceps. He did it on Saturday night's main event in that awesome tag team match, and he is now out of action indefinitely, with a return entirely dependent on the severity of the injury and whether surgery is required. A partial tear of a tricep is generally 3 to 4 months. A complete tear, it can be up to a year. Austin Theory backstage asked Heyman if he had to relinquish the tag team titles. Heyman explained the championships contractually belong to The Vision, and therefore Braun Breaker would step into Logan's role. Theory cut him off before he could even finish explaining, with a huge hug that surprised Paul, who told Austin how much he believes in him. Theory said he was focused on taking out every person involved with hurting Logan, and Heyman was on board with that. Coming back from commercial, Joe Hendry was in the ring singing his Fire Logan Paul song, only to get attacked from behind by Theory, who wore his ass out with a steel chair and then seemed to take his head off with a chair shot against the ring post, almost like a concerto. Tremendous camera angle here made it look like Theory committed manslaughter, and Hendry sold this completely out cold, not even moving a muscle as the segment ended. So we have a lot to cover here, okay? It is not the women's tag team championships, but still.
So, obviously the tag team titles are cursed. I'm just kidding. But, not really.
The Vision is straight up cursed. Somehow not aided by Danhausen, which makes it even crazier. Theory is now the only member in the faction's history to not be injured at a critical juncture. All of these injuries have come over a 6 or 7 month span. Rollins got hurt as World Heavyweight Champion. Reed and Breaker both got hurt before WrestleMania. They were planned for matches. And now Logan is hurt, coming off of the first match in which he and Theory could be seen not just as a legitimate tag team, but one that could put on a great match and was potentially about to have a great reign. That is straight up terrible luck. There is a silver lining, though. Monday night was by far the most interesting Theory has been since joining the Vision and returning to television. He flashed personality and character. Now he has a clearly defined direction, and he took action against Hendry here that made a legitimate impact. If WWE uses this to put real shine on Theory and does not have Breaker just dominate the tag team conversation with his presence, this could be huge for Austin. The explanation from Heyman, that was a bit shaky. Could have just said he negotiated the faction retaining the titles in a conversation with Adam Pearce. It's a shitty situation for all involved, no doubt, but the silver lining is strong. These segments were extremely well done, and we got more from Theory later in the show, too.
Yes. Horrible luck. What even is the Vision at this point? We haven't known forever. It was Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed teaming with Seth Rollins, then turning on him, then they got hurt, then other people come in. This is just, it's a complete mess. It's like the complete opposite of Judgment Day, where somebody would always get hurt, but then somebody else would step up and take advantage, and the faction could continue on from there. The Vision has just been so shorthanded every step of the way. It's a very difficult spot. And that's tough for Logan Paul, man. He has been active. He's been on the show every week. He's doing a good job. That match at Saturday Night's Main Event was a terrific match.
Mm-hmm.
He's he had adjusted his character beyond I'm rich and you're not. Like he was doing it. He was doing the pro wrestling thing.
Absolutely.
And doing a good job at it. So that is unfortunate to lose him just on that front. The theory of it all, this is his opportunity. Like, this is a guy who beat John Cena at WrestleMania like a few years ago. He was in a bit with Vince McMahon and Pat McAfee before that. Like, this has been the chosen one, so to speak, for a while, and he hasn't quite delivered on it. He's got another opportunity here to step up and take it. The best news, this should mean we get to hear Austin Theory's theme a lot more instead of Division 1.
I don't know about that. If they do tag team entrances, it's going to be Braun Breaker over Theory. But
I know, but Austin Theory's got a good theme. Please use it more. So that's where that sets up. The attack on Joe Hendry was perfectly smart, because one of my first thoughts was, what does this mean for Joe Hendry? His whole thing right now is singing the Logan Paul song. Yeah. And to immediately attack him and basically kind of put an end to that was like, okay, now Joe Hendry's got to figure out what's his next thing too. So this impacts a lot of different people. And I don't remember if you said it or not, but it just furthers, it's bad luck. But can you imagine if they had switched the titles on Saturday night's main event? Yeah. And how much better of a position things would be in.
It's so tough because it was the moment to switch the titles, which sometimes it organically happens and you don't plan for it. It happened in AEW with the Acclaimed against, was it Hurt Business they were fighting, or Hurt Syndicate over there?
Something like that.
I'm forgetting who the champions were, but the crowd was going insane for them. The planned booking for the match was not to change the titles. They didn't. And then what they did was they reran the match like 2 or 3 weeks later, flipped the titles. The same thing happened over there with Tekla. They had Chris Statlander retain the women's championship, but Tekla got such a great response that a couple weeks later, and the booking for that was horrendous. But they ended up changing the title anyway. WWE will not do that. They will not just reverse course 2 weeks later. They may plan it for a month or two down the line because, oh my God, these people are so over. We should make them champion. But they're never going to do it just a couple weeks later. So it was a missed opportunity on one hand. On the other hand, though, if they did win the titles, everything else we're about to talk about doesn't happen. And I found the rest of this extremely compelling on Raw involving the Street Profits.
I agree. And we can talk about that now.
We will. But before we get to that real briefly, because you did mention Hendry, I have no idea what WWE is doing with him, nor do I understand why he was brought up from NXT. The singing aspect is entertaining. The fans like it. Fire Logan Paul, funny. The crowd sings along. But they haven't surrounded the singing by his overall character, the whole say his name and he appears gimmick, which is funny. And you do it backstage. He shows up in a bunch of places. He gets involved in feuds. Maybe this attack was done to write him off. That way they can introduce that gimmick upon his return. Someone says Joe Hendry shows up. That's how he comes back. And then they start doing it. But super confusing the way they've been using him ever since his call up. And I really struggle to understand why they brought him up to just be a less gritty Elias, which is what he seems like right now.
Yeah, like my thought is that, he's an older guy. Call him up and see what he's got. If it doesn't work, you let him go. But the Logan Paul song got so over so quickly that they just kept going back to it because it's working. People are singing the song. So whatever plans we might have had for Joe Hendry, just go back to the Logan Paul song because it's working, and we'll figure it out with whatever's next. Now with this happening, maybe you do pivot to maybe if you had a different plan from originally, or the say his name gimmick, which was a funny thing in NXT like that. That he got over because of the entrance theme and all that stuff. It wasn't the singing. The singing was like secondary.
No, it's the appearing and it's the theme, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and I know he sings the theme, but so they just turned him into singing guy. They turned him into Elias. That wasn't what he was in NXT or anywhere else.
Well, it was also in TNA. It was also his it was also his PowerPoint presentations, which went along with the song, so he could tear down opponents. And they haven't done that either. They're just having him sing in the ring. They're not even, taking the time to build the extra stuff, which shows his entire presentation. So that's why it's so weird. Look, I told you all. When he signed with NXT, I thought his 15 minutes of fame were over in TNA. Not that he couldn't be somewhat popular and make some merch money and whatever and thrive, but not be the star He was the star in TNA. And he went over to NXT and it was a facsimile of it. And it worked well enough. Now it seems like a facsimile of a facsimile. And you know what happens? You know what? Many of you listening may be so young that you didn't actually use copy machines back in the day. But if you ever did, okay, when you print something out and you make a copy of it and you make a copy of it and you keep going down the line, eventually the quality degrades and it's not as sharp as it was initially. And that to me is Joe Hendry right now. It's not the gimmick that it was when it was monster over, when it was one of the top, whatever, like 3, 4, 5 gimmicks in professional wrestling at his peak in TNA. Despite it being TNA, he was that over internationally. It's now a facsimile of that. I know I've used that word like 17 times already.
You love that word.
So, well, just recently, just in this segment, I don't think I've ever said it on the podcast before. But regardless, to me, he needs to come up with what's next. Like he has to advance. You had Santino Marella for a while. He was really funny. Then he came out with the, I was going to call it the snake. What was it called?
The Cobra.
The Cobra. Thank you. He came out with the Cobra. He evolved it. Mick Foley was happy-go-lucky, whatever. Then he did Mr. Sacco. Joe Hendry needs his Mr. Sacco, for lack of a better term.
He needs to put something on his right
Not
hand.
a hand puppet, necessarily. But he's got to come up with whatever the next phase of his evolution is going to be if he is going to succeed long-term. That's just the way I feel. All right, that was a huge tangent. I apologize. Let's get back to the beef of this all. Rollins backstage confronted Angelo Dawkins, telling him that the only reason he was not at Saturday night's main event is because he listened to Montez Ford and stayed out of their business. However, he pitched Doc on Vision now being vulnerable with Logan injured, and he said they can end the stable for good if they just get on the same page. Tez came through mocking Seth for always being on a redemption arc, saying nothing good ever happens when he's around. Rollins countered that they would be tag team champions today if he had been there on Saturday to help them. He said they don't need to like each other or even be friends when it's all over, but they do need to work together for a common goal, and he's the one, Rollins, who has main evented WrestleMania and has multiple world titles to his name. Ford hasn't accomplished any of that. Tez countered that he's never stabbed his brother in the back. Rollins can't say that. And then he challenged him to a match, which got a huge pop despite this whole thing happening backstage. This is the shit I'm talking about right here, okay? Pure logic across the board from all three guys. Rollins trying to flex his pedigree, Ford calling him on his shit and standing on business. Tez has been showing so much personality in this feud, a lot of drive and direction, especially compared to the way he has been booked for the prior few years. It seemed at one point like they were going to let him stand out, only for him to fall back, and he became another generic half of that tag team. But now he is standing out for sure. And on top of that, this created a huge TV match where a tag team member got a chance to shine individually against the main eventer, which is something I have been advocating on this podcast for years.
And you know this, man.
Compelling segment from start to finish. Probably one of my favorite parts of Raw.
I have thoughts on Montez that I'll wait till we get after the match.
Okay.
The beginning of the segment was a little bit weird to me because like it felt like this is what they had planned before the injury news and they just kind of went forward with it.
Definitely.
Like you said. And so when you have Seth being like, you know, hey, if I'd been there to help you, you would have won on Saturday. He's correct on that. But because Logan is injured now and the Vision is down to 2 people, they don't need to team up. Like, what are they teaming up for? It used to be, we need to team up to take down the Vision. Well, the Vision was just knocked down a peg. So what do you need to team up for at this point? Like, naturally, in real life, Montez would have said, well, now there's only 2 of them. They can't have a third person interfere. We don't need you. We'll try to get another title match, and there won't be interference because there's nobody left.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, it's kind of hard. I couldn't really buy why Seth even wants to team up with them anymore. Like, they should, not celebrating, but like, hey, we knocked Logan out. Like, that's kind of good in terms of stopping the Vision. So that the basic of that coming off of the injury news was a little bit weird to me, but I did love the interactions between Seth and Montez. And I have, again, more Montez thoughts that I'll hold for after we talk about the match.
You're 100% right about that. And it didn't even click for me. Don't forget, I did watch this very late at night, but that didn't click. What did click was I knew at the end of the show, they took a 6-man storyline and they turned it into a 4-man storyline, right? And it's extremely obvious based on the way it was booked.
Yeah.
But it didn't click for me in this segment. Like, why do they need his help? Now, I still believe it works for 2 reasons. One, Paul Heyman interfered in that match also. Now, Heyman's not a wrestler, and you don't need Rollins to counteract Heyman necessarily. But he is the third man. He does impact stuff, and Rollins worked with Heyman, so he knows the way he thinks, the plan for the match, how they might do interference. Maybe they bring someone in. Maybe Bronson Reed is about to be, cleared and involved back in this. He posted something on social media. The guy looked amazing.
He looks ripped.
So there are a lot of elements where it could make sense, but if you just looked at it from an in-ring performance standpoint, you're 1,000% correct. Like, no argument there. Was this
you could say, look, it was 4 people who stopped the Street Profits because it was Heyman who put the foot on.
That's what I'm saying. So like,
you could say that too.
So even though Rollins wouldn't be wrestling, he'd be their strategic advisor at least. They need his help to take down the Vision, something like that. But you're right. In the moment, it seemed like he was saying, you need me to wrestle with you guys, but there's only 2 people on the other side, so why do you need me? Right?
Yeah.
So we'll find out. So we had Rollins against Ford. Seth landed his superplex Falcon Arrow after the break. Rollins escaped an inverted fireman's carry, immediately taking Tez down with a pedigree for a false finish. This mirrored the WrestleMania 38 sequence with their wives that ended in a manhandle slam after Becky Lynch flipped out of Bianca Belair's kiss of death.
That's cool.
Seth tried to reason with him at that point, saying he's trying to change and prove that they're on the same page with the same goals. Ford smacked him across the face instead of responding.
What is the 5 fingers say to the face?
What?
Slap!
So Rollins delivered 2 buckle bombs, only for Tez to counter a third into a Hurricanrana out of the ring, leading to his Tope Con Hero over the ring post, sky-high frog splash for a false finish. Ford attempted to follow with a 450, but Rollins got out of the way and landed a stomp, getting the 1-2-3 with only a hand and wrist over Tez's waist to prove how spent he was from the match. 2 clean wins after 2 great matches in one night. Am I taking crazy pills? What product am I watching?
Oh! Yes! I love that!
We'll talk about the other match a little bit later. Immediately at the bell, Dawkins got worn out with a chair by Theory on the stage. Austin attempted a concerto with the steel plate where the ramp begins, but unlike the earlier chair shot with Hendry and the ring post, the camera angle exposed how he came nowhere close to Angelo's head. So that was a disappointing end to something that was white hot. It felt as if the attack on Dawkins should have gone longer too. Rollins and Ford backstage later came together over Dawkins being laid out as Seth ran in and showed genuine concern about him. Rollins demanded that Pierce make his next match against the Vision as soon as possible because the deal needs to finally end. This seemed like a prove-it match for Ford, a test of whether he can cut it as a singles performer against a main eventer. WWE does stuff like this sometimes, and you can generally tell by the match length and how much the tag team half is given against a top talent. In this case, Tez was given a lot by Seth, as evidenced by hitting one of his finishers, the last-ditch cover. Not sure I've seen one that light before. Usually you get an entire arm over somebody. This was a hand and wrist. That was pretty crazy. Tez was booked incredibly strong in defeat, just like Ethan Page was on Saturday night's main event to Penta. I might have delayed the Rollins Ford acknowledgement one more week because they're not fighting on Clash in Italy. So why are you rushing it this week? You could discuss his status. Maybe they show concern and Ford is still, against working with Rollins. And then a week later, he comes to grips with the whole thing, whatever the case might be. But that all just depends on their timeline for whenever the tag team match is going to happen, considering, as I mentioned a moment ago, this was almost certainly supposed to be a 6-man leading into Rollins Breaker and then a tag team match. 3.75 stars, B+. This storyline, and we have more to talk about here, but this was maybe my favorite part of Raw on Monday night.
This is the official start of the Montez Ford singles run. Like
you're calling it. You're saying
it's happening.
Okay,
that's why they lost on Saturday. That I think is clearly ultimately what the plan was.
Okay,
to move to this, to not have the Profits when maybe they win the titles, maybe they don't, but this is Montez Ford's time now to have the singular promo time he's had with Seth. They've been having him and Dawkins on different sides the last couple of weeks, even. Like, they have not been on the same page about Seth. This has all been building to the Montez Ford singles run. You get the Seth Rollins match. Is this the biggest singles match Ford has ever had in WWE?
Singles match. I
can't think of anything bigger.
Singles match. I thought I could have sworn he fought Roman Reigns over on SmackDown. You keep talking, I'll double check.
Maybe that does sound a little familiar back when Roman was doing Tribal Chief stuff. You might be right. But
keep going, I'll find it.
This just doesn't happen. And not only did they have the match, give them time and have a good match, that is the least emphatic cover that is literally possible in professional wrestling.
A finger would be the only one that's a little bit less.
But not even because it was just a hand. But Seth was on his back, which in the moment I was like, wait, can you count both of them? I guess Montez wasn't covering Seth, so no. But like it wasn't like Seth was on his stomach and he's got a hand on. He's on his back. That's even more so. That is putting somebody over in defeat as much as you possibly can. And now we'll probably have Seth and Montez team up and this and that and whatever. But the Montez Ford singles push is coming. And that was made blatantly clear on Monday.
So Montez Ford did fight Roman Reigns in 2021 on SmackDown. So I absolutely nailed that.
Yep.
But he also fought Seth Rollins twice in singles action. His first ever main roster match when the Street Profits got called up at the beginning of the pandemic on Raw, and Rollins was involved with Ford and Dawkins, obviously, Austin Theory, and he did the Monday Night Messiah gimmick. So they fought then, and they actually fought more recently. Well, not that much more recently, in 2022 as well. So this was actually their third singles match together, and I was just looking, all three of them were received incredibly well. Here's one other note for you, just an open-ended question. Since getting called up to the main roster, how many singles matches do you believe Montez Ford has wrestled? Since 2020. So 6 years.
5?
No, it's more than that. 21. 21 singles matches. Don't forget, he had the Money in the Bank qualifying, Elimination Chamber qualifying. He's been involved in some stuff. But
that's true.
Yeah. This was only his first televised singles match since 2024. So in 2 years, his only, which is just absolutely ridiculous. I know they were hurt for a while and then gone because of the pregnancy stuff and all that, but I mean, that is absolutely ridiculous. But I largely agree with what you said. I don't know that this is the official start of the singles run. I don't know if he's going to be moving into that within the next 30 to 60 days. I do believe this solidified that he will get one.
This is the writing team saying that's where we're going.
Definitely. I agree with that. And lastly here, Pierce ran down Theory backstage, kicking him out of the arena. He shot back about how his faction has been injured one by one under Pierce's watch, But when he got heated back at him, Theory, Heyman stepped in and pretended to discipline him. As they continued walking, they came across Alpha Academy, with the guys suggesting Austin was a bad guy, but Maxine Dupree basically just said he's misunderstood and going through a tough time. So now that has been acknowledged on screen. It's not just a background situation. As I've said before, this was a huge night for Theory from an exposure and opportunity standpoint. It's by far the most he's been given since returning and joining the Vision. It truly feels for the first time recently like the arrow is pointing up for him. And the only caution, I said it earlier, but I'm going to repeat it here. The only caution is when Braun Breaker is back, I presume next week, you cannot just let him dominate everything like Logan Paul had dominated their team before from a promo standpoint. Austin has to he doesn't need 50% of the promo time. He needs 35%. He should be speaking 1/3 as often as Breaker, and his character needs to be developing individually away from the tag team like it did here on Monday night. He was compelling. He was one of the best parts of the show. And if you told me before Raw started that I would be saying that, I'd be shocked. Not because I don't believe he has the talent, but because WWE has not shown once that they would actually, roll and push him to do that.
The only other thing I'll add here, Pierce kicked him out with 20 minutes left in the show.
Right.
It didn't even matter at that point. You should have kicked him out after the first one. The fact that you didn't, then you do it the second time. I remember seeing it. I'm like, the show's almost over. What is even the point?
Well, true, but then you don't get the extra hour of catering, obviously, so you don't get all the food and stuff. So.
Yeah.
So much more to cover on today's episode. Before we get to it, Silver King does need to remind you that these days, whether it is Raw, SmackDown, NXT, premium live events, or even Saturday night's main event, we are all in. with NordVPN. It is easy to set up a drastically better viewing experience each night. You get the same high quality streams, except they become commercial-free shows. All you have to do is sign up at nordvpn.com/gettingover, open the app, quick connect to another country like the United Kingdom or France, open Netflix, and watch WWE Clash in Italy, which of course is this weekend. NordVPN also allows you to get around online censorship and surveillance, and one account can be used on 10 different devices. Get the best discount possible. Go to nordvpn.com/gettingover. Our link gives you 4 extra free months off the 2-year plan, and there's no risk, nor does a 30-day money-back guarantee. So improve your WWE viewing, save money, browse safer online, and get the best discount for the best VPN at nordvpn.com/gettingover. Your WWE Clash in Italy Ultimate Preview is still to come, but first we need to break down everything else that happened across Raw and SmackDown this week, and we do it the way we always do here on Getting Over, by tackling the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Hey, yo. Survey says one more for the good guy.
Say hello to the back.
Don't sing it. Bring it.
Now, Vintage will be with us just for the start of this segment. Then he needs to take a break. He will come back for WWE Clash in Italy. Let's get to it. LA Knight got a massive pop entering the ring at the midpoint of Raw, saying he put the Vision in his rearview mirror alongside the Usos at WrestleMania, but they've been moving different ever since. He announced himself as the first entrant for King of the Ring, which begins on Raw next week, saying he's focused on taking down Roman Reigns, which has him wondering where the Usos will stand circumstantially. Jimmy Uso entered individually, saying he respects Knight and understands why he's in his feelings about it, because the bloodline made life tough for a lot of people. Back in the day when they were running WWE, he insisted they were not like that anymore, and he promised LA a fair shot at Reigns if he does win the tournament. Knight questioned his honesty, noting in a messy way that he's the third string in the bloodline and couldn't even corral Jay last week with the steel chair, so how can he trust that they wouldn't go after him the same way? Jimmy snapped at the insinuation, saying that's family business, he needs to stay out of it, and disrespecting the family will suddenly make him their business. LA grabbed his arm, saying he likes Jimmy best and he's okay with Jay, but he's always disliked Roman and how he can never get the job done on his own. Knight basically told Jimmy to take that message to his cousin before dropping the mic and leaving. Are we about to get LA Knight winning King of the Ring and facing Reigns at SummerSlam, possibly even main eventing Night 2 in Minneapolis? Generally, when WWE platforms someone like this ahead of the start of a tournament or something, they have a tremendous opportunity to win the whole deal. The other option is he gets into a secondary feud with Jay or someone else wins the tournament, creating a really strong singles match on the show that does not involve Roman. And if we're being honest, that's probably more likely. Still, this was largely a great segment. I had a written note at the midway point that Knight was rolling strong without any of his signature flubs. And then once Jimmy got out there, he lost his place a bit, had to jabber on until he found himself again. But I'm a huge fan of how they're paying off the storyline that they established with their team up before WrestleMania. He's living up to his word, Knight is, as a babyface, not letting the Usos get away with reverting back into the bloodline roles. And Jimmy remains super strong on the mic as well. This was good.
It was good. The LA Knight pop he got was big. A good reminder that people are still very much behind this guy and love seeing him when he comes out, even though we haven't seen him much over the last couple of months. But then this became Flub City, really. I thought he was flubbing a bit at the beginning. I didn't know where he was going until eventually he starts talking about King and Queen of the Ring. I'm like, oh, okay, so we're just announcing the tournament. And then he flubbed some more when Jimmy was out. It's again, where like what they're having to explain is a confusing thing. LA Knight's here. He's here to win King of the Ring, but also he's mad at Roman Reigns and he likes Jimmy and has mixed feelings about Jay, but he wants to fight Roman and he's responding to Jimmy. And it's like losing track of where we're going here. Wrestling communication is always easier when it's very straightforward. I'd have even just preferred this of Jimmy and LA having a bit of a tussle and LA Knight saying, I want to get Roman Reigns, but first I want to beat you up before I get there. And then just like do it or something. So ultimately good, because it's good that LA Knight is back on the screen. It's good that he's announcing King of the Ring. I do not think he's going to win it because I'm not going to get my hopes up that he's going to be put, especially in the main event of a SummerSlam.
Yeah, no,
things.
I know. It's not going to happen.
Where, Brock's going to have one of those probably because it's in Minnesota. Like, I don't see that happening. Although I guess if Brock is, a main event, you could do an LA Knight title match that's not a main event. If you do Cody in the other one or something, I guess it's possible. But I'm not going to get my hopes up on LA Knight winning this. I did that too many times with Money in the Bank. But still, good to see him. Good to see he's still crazy over with the crowd. Still feels like they don't fully know what they want to do with him. And we'll wait and see.
Just as a point of order, I mentioned SummerSlam a second ago. When the official tournament announcements were made for King and Queen of the Ring, that logo was not on the screen, and Michael Cole only stated the winners get number one contenderships. He did not say they're for a specific show. Something to keep an eye on. We'll talk more about this when we see who is participating, but I do hope WWE uses these tournaments to actually push talent to new levels. Julia, for example, would be a great person to at least get to the finals of the women's tournament. Rhea Ripley opened SmackDown by saying, quote, "Welcome to Friday Night Mommy," which I am sorry does not work. It's not Monday Night Mommy. There's no alliteration there.
Not at all. Not at all.
Stop doing. They try to force shit like that. Come on, be smarter. Ripley accepted Jade Cargill's challenge, considering she's pissed her off. Alexa were bothered that Rhea was not at TV to get their backs last week, to which she explained, as I assumed, that she was over in Australia seeing her family. And Charlotte Flair previously said that they did not need her help. Flair said that was the case with Fatal Influence, but Jade's crew attacking was Rhea involving them in their problems. Ripley pointed out Flair didn't even have Alexa Bliss's back when all three got interrupted by Fatal Influence, who were wearing bland cement gray for some reason, saying they have already risen to the top of the division. Charlotte challenged to a tag team match, and that was it. Clunky ass segment. Ripley actually started quite well on her own. She was rolling on the mic. I was interested to hear her go off a little bit more on Jade. Instead, Charlotte came out and once again made little sense, trying to force a problem with Rhea that does not actually exist in kayfabe. Every time Flair tries to create a problem, it's completely inorganic, it's without merit, and frankly, it's dumb. Like kayfabe dumb. I think it's a scripting problem, but Charlotte certainly isn't helping. It screams to me that WWE is trying to plant some seeds for this to maybe be a SummerSlam feud. Otherwise, there's not a great reason for them to be contentious all this time. And then with Influence, they were really trying to ham it up for booze. That was similarly not natural. Ripley should have been most of the segment considering the PLE was in 2 weeks. Instead, she was the best part of it and only 10% of it. This was bad.
Yeah, it was a lot. I didn't love Rhea just accepting Jade's challenge either. Like, just, yeah, all right, I'm back and I'll accept it. Clash in Italy, here we go. It was like, that's it? That's all she had to do? It was okay. The Fatal Influence part did feel a little bit forced. I wondered if they were expecting to get the booze just by walking out, like they kind of had been.
They were, yeah.
But they weren't really getting it. And so they had to then kind of ham it up a little bit to get the crowd going on it, which is something I was concerned about a week ago in terms of putting them out when it's not in front of a crowd. I would also, my only other note here is I want to nominate a Hey Now for Charlotte wearing street clothes, which is something we've talked about last week. I think there's certain wrestlers when they're in street clothes. Charlotte was one of them, and that applies here.
They look good, but she's got me saying, "Hey now!"
That means the Hey Now Championship is indeed on the line. Roxanne Perez and her animal print getup a few weeks ago on Raw against Charlotte Flair in street clothes that Chris likes from SmackDown. I will go first here. This is, as far as I'm concerned, not a Hey Now, although Charlotte looked great and good for her. I would not have hit the sound drop on my own, and I'm certainly not willing to change the title here.
I am not changing the title, but I just wanted to have a worthy, I thought it was a worthy enough number one contender, and it followed up on what we talked about, if it was last week or whatever, that there's certain wrestlers that look better in street clothes than scantily clad wrestling clothes. Drew McIntyre is one of them. Charlotte Flair is one of them. And we immediately got that proven on this next episode of SmackDown. So just wanted to highlight it.
Yeah,
no title change.
I believe we spoke about that with Bayley last week. Was a great example of that. But
yes,
indeed, that is the conclusion of the match. And still, Hey Now champion Roxanne Perez. Considering they've already fought at WrestleMania 36 and 39, I don't really need Charlotte and Rhea rubber match as the primary women's title bout at SummerSlam. Unfortunately, looking at the SmackDown roster and everyone's station, Tiffany Stratton is probably the only other woman on the brand who you could realistically put on the second biggest show of the year, and she's holding the other championship. So I am guessing that's the direction they're going to go. Bliss later told Flair that she's not medically cleared for the match, but she quickly revealed that she was lying. That way Charlotte would have to team with Rhea and get their act together ahead of their trios match at Saturday night's main event. This was probably the best of their buddy segments that we've gotten in a while, and it was smart logic and far more interesting than the alternative. This was also just very cute from Alexa, so this is a good for Silver King and Vintage here. That move to Ripley and Flair against Fallon Henley and Lainey Reed. Fatal Influence got their full NXT entrance with Fallon throwing her coat on the camera and everything, even though the camera didn't follow her to the right spot at the first place. Step your game up, Stu. Influence got solid heat by preventing the hot tag and taking out Flair's knee. Rhea had a nice hot tag with a terrific razor's edge on Lainey, a couple strong kicks, but Charlotte blind tagged as Ripley hit Riptide, adding natural selection to steal the fall on Reed. Alexa played peacemaker as Rhea was obviously upset at Charlotte. Jade's crew immediately attacked out of the crowd after the bell, with everyone battling backstage as Cargill and Ripley went at it, the former landing a pump boot and Jade to stand tall. And as you mentioned, they had the trios match over on Saturday night's main event, and the heels also won that with Jade pinning Ripley. I was just happy that Henley didn't take the fall in this match. This was the first clean result we got through 2 hours of SmackDown. I mentioned how 4 out of 5 matches were distraction interference, and Influence looked great working with the veterans. They swam here. They did not sink. Everything made sense as it transpired, including the post-match attack. So I don't really have that many further notes. Also, we talked about it on Saturday. Jade standing over Rhea was necessary as that feud needed to heat back up, and the go home for Clash in Italy is going to be 24 hours before the PLE. The only part of it that was frustrating is that they did the exact same thing with the men, but this was good.
Yes, it was good. I think I've misstated it on Saturday night's main event show, saying Jade pinned Rhea twice. It wasn't that, it was this. I mixed it up in my head because I was forgetting
who did she pin on Saturday night's main event? I forgot. Did she pin Bliss?
She pinned Rhea.
Oh, yeah, she didn't pin her here. She hit her with her finisher here. Okay, yeah. We're on the same page.
So I think I had said pin, but I meant stood tall. So just correcting myself there.
Gotcha.
This was good. It makes sense. Like, that's the role Fatal Influence plays here. Like, you give the baby faces the win going into their pay-per-view match that they're going to lose. But we are kind of past the initial major heat that Fatal Influence was getting. So now it's time to kind of see how they respond and what else they start working with here after taking a loss like this. It was always a concern, you bring in a group, they lose a bit, and then they just kind of lose momentum. So curious what they have moving forward, but it was good.
Okay, that was it for Vintage in terms of the good, the bad, and the ugly, but he will be back for the WWE Clash in Italy Ultimate Preview coming up momentarily. Intercontinental Championship Penta defending against Javon Evans. Did not love the concept of Javon getting a pre-announced title match when he's entered 1-1 in singles since WrestleMania, especially since these two also lost as a team. So there wasn't even a segment where Penta gave it to him out of respect for helping him win a match. Penta stopped OG Cutter cold at the opening bell. Corey Graves said Penta may be unfamiliar competing against wrestlers with similar skill sets, as if he did not spend decades of his career wrestling luchadors in Mexico. They dapped up and strutted during the match, only for Javon to surprise the champion with a super kick and some bouncy stuff before taking an anti-air super kick and a handstand dropkick. Evans hit red dot before Penta caught Javon on a tope suicida, throwing him in one motion, spine first into the announce table. Insanely nasty spot. Evans recovered during the break with a huge splash into the timekeeper's area, then again blindsided Penta during a chop exchange by hitting a bicycle knee on the OG Cutter for a false finish. Javon landed another OG Cutter, this time on the ring apron to the outside. Penta driver led to another false finish. Evans box jumped the top rope for what seemed like it was going to be a Spanish fly. Instead, he surprised with an avalanche hurricanrana. Penta intercepted OG Cutter with an anti-air super kick, but Javon prevented Mexican Destroyer with a flying knee, only to get OG Cutter again intercepted with a backstabber, leading to a Mexican Destroyer and title retention. Penta tried to put Javon over after the bell, but Evans was frustrated. He refused to allow his arm to get raised. Outstanding TV match that could have been placed on any WWE PLE and possibly been in contention for match of the night. Phenomenal work between these two guys. A huge showcase of what the future holds for Evans. This continued Penta's tremendous Intercontinental title reign, but Javon, it put him near his level, and it delivered a clean finish, which we have been dying to see on WWE TV. There was also some character development with Evans, both not being a pure babyface on 2 occasions between the bells and then again after the match. I cannot imagine it as a heel turn, but giving some edge and another layer to someone as opposed to them just being a smiley, bouncy guy, that is important. 4.25 stars. A, undoubtedly good. Now, this match played on the axiom that I always share on this show.
We're wrestlers in a wrestling ring. Let's just freaking wrestle.
Put your incredible talent in quality matches with clean finishes on weekly TV, create a storyline or reason for them to fight, and their shows will be better. It is not a tough calculus. In fact, it's the simplest one imaginable when it comes to pro wrestling. Other than that, here's where I stand with Javon, who I love as a performer and character. Most of what he is doing works. He should continue being bouncy and operating at the level he does. I don't want him to cramp his style. However, not every impressive sequence needs to involve the ropes. He is so athletic. There are so many ways he can be showcased without having to do a springboard. Look at how Swerve Strickland used to work. Look at how Will Ospreay works now. There are a couple of examples of guys who can do all the high-flying shit, but it's their athleticism between the ropes on the canvas that stands out so much. Hell, Braun Breaker is another good example, just given his speed. The sooner Javon diversifies his offense, the better it is going to be for him, the safer it is going to be for him, and the more believable he will be as a champion. Javon backstage apologized to Penta for showing his frustration after the match, calling him a great champion. Penta said it's okay. Evans told him he would be coming back for the title soon, and then they dapped up. Rey Mysterio came through after Javon left, laughing about how they used to be full of piss and vinegar themselves when they were that age. Penta said he wanted to leave a legacy as Intercontinental Champion, saying how important it would be for him to fight Rey for the title. Mysterio was about it, and Penta said he would talk to Pierce. The general manager later congratulated Mysterio for his appointment as GM of AAA, which was announced on Saturday and discussed on our Saturday night's main event Instant Analysis, where we also reviewed the last AAA show. But just as they began talking about Penta's offer, Ethan Page interrupted, demanding a rematch. Pierce obviously explained that Mysterio was a Hall of Famer, and Rusev came in, with Page egging him on to get angry at Rey for being given a title match without earning it. That led to everyone agreeing to run Mysterio-Rusev, which was effectively a number one contendership. After the first half of this, I was going to remark how another person was getting an undeserved title opportunity, though of course Mysterio is the exception to the rule, considering he's a legitimate legend and Hall of Famer, and he's not about to wrestle weekly matches to earn a title chance. And then they went ahead and made the match anyway right in the second half. The interaction between Rey and Penta was super respectful and cool. Both older guys laughing at Evans' disposition. That was really fun as someone who has washed myself. Page continuing to showcase his skills as a shit stirrer. That's also great. And Rusev becoming this like rage-baited dude who is easy manipulated from Page to do his bidding. That should be fun, both in the short term and the long term. WWE, they're doing a solid job increasing this mid-card. They need to expand it beyond the four main guys who have been featured recently. Penta, Javon, Rusev, and Page. I'm sure the idea is a four-way sooner than later, so I get it, but I want to see more people involved. This was good. Mysterio narrated a Mascara contra Mascara video package promoting AAA Noche de los Grandes on Saturday. It focused on the history of the stipulation. They did not spend even a single second getting into the AAA storyline involving El Grande Americano, which is the most compelling angle in all of professional wrestling right now. Further infuriating is that AAA created an incredible video package about the actual feud that aired last Saturday, and WWE, they easily could have edited it down to air on Raw instead of this, so that they were not only promoting that the match was happening, but giving viewers a recap and a reason to care about it. Now, perhaps they did not do so because of their horrendous booking of the feud on Raw the last few weeks. This was such a missed opportunity to promote their own show and get main roster fans invested. It's one thing to say a match is happening. It's another to create investment so people tune in. This was bad. We had Mysterio against Rusev. Page was on commentary. They had some great spots ringside at the start. Rey landed a seated senton and a springboard moonsault, but Rusev caught a subsequent springboard for a rotating Uranagi and a Machka kick. Rusev then intercepted 619 and attempted to put Mysterio in an accolade, but Rey countered that into a roll-up for the win. Rusev attacked after the bell, leading to a Dragon Lee return save. I had been wondering where the hell his ass was at. Dragon hurricanrana Page into Rusev, hit him with a Tope con Hero before combining with Rey for a 619 and Operation Dragon. I hated the roll-up when Rey does not need an escape victory against Rusev, considering his pedigree and Rusev taking L's recently, but they had a real nice match otherwise, and Dragon returning was nice. He got a surprisingly strong reaction too, considering he's not been featured that well. It got me wondering whether Dragon is potentially the one who takes the title off Penta. It has long seemed Like he would be the heir apparent to Rey. That's how he has been booked previously, but they still have a ways to go in order to put him that forward, let's say, as an individual. Also, look, Rey is everything Dom says he is. The guy becomes GM of AAA, immediately gets boosted over his son, a 2-time Intercontinental Champion over the last year, and he gets a title match. What a deadbeat piece of shit father. Good stuff across the board here. Trick Williams hit the ring with Lil Yachty, still over like Rover. 2 things I loved at the start of this segment. 1, Trick using Booker T's accentuations as his song was ending. 2, Trick referring to Lil Yachty as Boat, because he's a little yacht, you know. They started shading folks before Yachty talked about it being disrespectful to interrupt the champion when he's talking. Out came Carmelo Hayes, alluding to their past, saying Williams screwed him out of the United States Championship. Melo was clear he was not disrespecting what Trick has accomplished, but he said there's a big difference between carrying a title and being a champion, and he proved during his reign that he's a champion. Yachty started making excuses about Williams' schedule being too busy, so Hayes turned it on him, saying they're day ones, but letting someone else manage him proves that he's always been better at playing second fiddle. Trick ultimately accepted the match, saying the open challenges are done, but he's giving it to Melo because he likes and respects him. For all of my frustrations with segments on SmackDown, this was one that was executed perfectly. It's extremely difficult to run something like this with a pair of baby faces, especially when you have one in Trick who is so massively over that he could easily outshine the opposition or even worse, get them booed, when that is certainly not what creative wants for Melo. They both deftly managed that by towing the line in their promos, and while their relationship and past history is so deep, I was fine with only alluding to it and not digging into it, considering this is not some major PLE feud. It's a match being put together on TV somewhat randomly. But that is where my lone criticism emerged when the segment ended. This is the match with 2 of your young guns. There's substantial pain from what happened at WrestleMania around Hayes. Why are you throwing it out on television unadvertised in Lexington, Kentucky, of all places? Despite that, I'm giving it a good. Now, I had thought the whole purpose of Melo coming out was to get a title match, but the championship was not on the line here, so it was Trick against Melo, non-title. Hayes took Trick slap and bookend early as Williams got all the crowd juice. Interestingly, despite Trick getting cheers and Melo getting super light boos during the break, there were "Let's go Melo" chants when he was getting choked out a bit later. Williams caught him with a nice leaping neckbreaker as Ricky Saints showed up ringside, I presume out of the crowd, considering it happened off screen. Hayes landed La Mystica with Saints distracting by talking shit. After a strike exchange, Trick caught him with Trouble in Paradise, but Melo countered Trick shot nicely with first 48. Ricky again distracted as Melo was on the ropes, but Trick shoved him out of the way as he was talking shit to Hayes ringside. So Saints jumped on the apron, which distracted the referee from a roll-up that could have counted to 10. When Melo took issue with that, Trick caught him blind with Trick shot to win the match. Despite their prior meetings, this may have actually been their best match from a bell-to-bell quality standpoint. Saints later was proud of himself backstage, saying he may be new, but he's not a rookie. Melo caught him blind with a huge smack across the face.
What is the 5 fingers say to the face?
What?
Slap!
And told him to stay out of his business. The excused loss was the only way to go here, but it was frustrating because it was the 3rd time it happened in 3 matches to start SmackDown. The problem is that this was the match in which it was necessary and appropriate, as neither guy could afford to lose, Melo especially, given what transpired before Mania. Whereas the other 2 matches that preceded it, those easily could have ended with clean wins. Involving Saints as the pure heel kicking off a potential 3-way feud, that allows Trick and Melo to continue interacting while leveling up Ricky to a firm mid-card position and holding off the one-on-one feud for a bigger stage at a later date. I hope that is the direction they are going. And if it is, if they're going to go in a 3-way, then Melo should have won this match. It was non-title. Trick could have said, hey, you didn't necessarily deserve the win. They could run it back as a title match. Saints could get involved. That could lead to the 3-way. If it's just Hayes and Saints moving forward, that's far less exciting. Good. Nice to see them back together on TV. I just wonder what's going to happen after this. Bayley and Lyra Valkyria fought Judgment Day. 2nd time these teams have fought in 4 weeks. 4th time in 10 months. Solid work between all of them. Bayley hit a nice sunset flip powerbomb of Roxanne Perez before the faces combined for a fireman's carry neckbreaker and a really strange cover sequence where Lyra waited and waited for Liv Morgan to be in a position for an assisted rope break, and she just didn't cover Roxy, even though she should have like a long time earlier. Liv got ejected, but directed Dominic Mysterio on what to do next. He distracted as Valkyria set Perez up for a tandem move, only for Lyra to just let Roxy go, so Raquel Rodriguez could push Bayley off the top rope. Roxy then landed pop rocks for a kick-out false finish, I believe, because Valkyria was late to break the cover. No one should have been kicking out of pop rocks like that. Dom threw his title in the ring. On another distraction, Bayley smartly let go of a tug of war, sending Perez backwards into Mysterio, knocking him off the ring apron, and then Bayley rolled her up for the win. You heard the way I described it. This was an absolute mess. Even if I put the first mistake on Liv, not timing it right, Lyra was all over the place doing weird stuff. The match never hit a second gear, and we got yet another women's match, a tag team match too, ending in a roll-up in 2026. They did this at 11 minutes, and that was a good amount of time. The right side definitely won, but combining the 3 distractions and interferences with the mistakes and the roll-up, why couldn't Bayley, a veteran, have caught her in a seatbelt or an inside cradle or a crucifix pinning combination? Why are we doing roll-ups with the women in 2026? You want to do it every once in a while to steal a match, that's okay. Twice in as many weeks, 3 times in as many weeks, whatever it's been, it's infuriating. So based on my criteria, I have no choice but to grade this bad. It is inexcusable that these 4 women, who are all great, cannot wrestle a normal match to a normal clean finish. It is inexcusable. And it remains ridiculous that WWE went another week without anything for Liv to do. She's been women's world champion for a month and has not started a feud, let alone defended the title. WWE will be having its 3rd special show coming up at the end of the week. She has not been on any of them post-WrestleMania. The Raw roster is not that deep right now, considering the tag team division and who was involved with the Intercontinental title. But if you knew that Bayley and Lyra were going to rematch with Judgment Day, why didn't one of them fight Liv at Saturday night's main event or at Backlash? And then you could, just continue it into the tag team story. I understand, Becky Lynch's Intercontinental Champion. I understand Sol Ruca debuted and she's in that picture. Someone could have been bubbled up for a chance at Liv. They could have brought up someone from NXT for a 3-week run to create an interesting TV feud and then have Liv get a clean win and send them right back down to NXT. There are so many things they could have done. It is absolutely confounding. We had a United States Open Challenge over on SmackDown. Tiffany Stratton against Lash Legend. I thought this was going to mark the debut of Blake Monroe. No. So they did an open challenge, but they didn't debut anyone, didn't do anything exciting or interesting. Irresistible Forces cut a quick promo ahead of their weekend match. Lash answering the challenge, and their promo basically got 0 reaction. Tiffy tripped over the top rope doing a slingshot splash. Legend chokeslammed her on the ring apron and actually got heat, leading to Chelsea Green running down to get Stratton's back. Tiffy did her handspring back elbow immediately into a handspring stunner, which looked great other than Lash not selling the first half of it at all. Legend then prevented the Cartwheel Alabama Slam, countering into a powerbomb. Stratton countered Lash extension into a crucifix bomb. Nia Jax interfered when she went into the ropes, but Chelsea didn't do anything about it until a good 30 seconds later when she shoved Jax into the ring post. Legend caught Stratton with a huge boot, only to get distracted by Green, allowing Tiffy to put her in the weakest roll-up ever, with Lash not even bothering to kick her legs trying to escape, all for Tiffy to retain the title. So 2 women's matches in the same week with a roll-up. And I believe that was after Brie Bella and Paige did the roll-up on Saturday night's main event. So 3 shows in a row. SmackDown, Saturday night's main event, and Raw, where a women's match ended in a roll-up. That is Divas era shit booking. These are not Divas era wrestlers, except for, Brie Bella especially. Got lots of critiques here. So let's get those out of the way first. Theoretically, I don't mind there being one active open challenge running across both brands at any given time. And since the Obafemi one is ended, that's okay with me. The problem is this was not established. There was no statement from Stratton. There was no in-ring promo opening the door for someone to challenge her. She literally just entered, got in the ring, and waited for someone else to come out. That is lazy as shit for a storytelling company. And then, obviously, the finish, extremely repetitive, came after another interference finish in the prior match and ended in an effing roll-up. I understand that Lash is a huge woman and you want to keep her strong, but it's easy booking to have her get put in position for prettiest moonsault ever, a non-power finisher. She didn't even take the roll-up well. Everything was so light. Didn't struggle. Tiffy didn't do a good job on it, use leverage or anything like that. Lash is a powerhouse, but that's where the talent ends with her in the ring. She wasn't entirely ready for the call-up herself. She's way too slow and robotic. The positives are this was a fresh main roster matchup featuring 2 younger women, and it was obviously the right result with a fun new partnership emerging, Chelsea and Tiffy. So I'll go with a light bad, 2 simple changes, and it probably would have flipped to the other side and been a light good. And while Stratton's regression has paused, she is still far from the wrestler that she was last year. As it turns out, Blake Monroe did make her main roster debut on Friday night in a 15-second forgettable backstage segment where she posed with Chelsea before insulting her and leaving with Green getting run over by the forces, shoved into a road case. Why debut Blake in an open challenge to a huge response when you can waste her first appearance on this bullshit? That would require competency and foresight. The crowd barely noticed her. The booking on SmackDown is such utter crap compared to Raw, especially the women's division. How the hell do you do a month of vignettes to lead into a 15-second backstage segment? Like, holy shit, what a screw up. Bad. And I need to think it through, but this may be the worst debut of the 11 NXT call-ups since January. Like, we have issues with what's happening with Sol Ruca, but her first match was a banger against Liv Morgan, and then she had another banger, kind of, against Io Sky. Joe Hendry maybe is the other poor NXT call-up, the way it's been executed. I think this might be the worst, but we'll have to see what happens next week. And if they actually do something with Blake, give her TV time, give her a match, give her a win, something like that. How they did not advance the Kiana James and Julia storyline outside of a background appearance in a 3-hour show, I have no idea. SmackDown storylines are screwed when they lose the third hour in late June. Screwed. I don't know how any tag teams or the mid-card women's division gets time on this show. Royce Keys got into it with Solo Sikoa backstage, angry that he cost him a number one contendership last week. Sikoa reminded that Keys never denied his help initially. He's the one who threw the chair at his head and created the issue. Solo said they're family and he's happy to have his back, but that's a decision Royce has to make. It's quite a leap for me to go from Keys and Fatu, Jacob Fatu, having a long-term prior relationship, working the independents in California, to also say that Sikoa sees him as family when nothing has been established regarding their relationship. Still, they're nice foils for one another. Solo is a solid first program for Royce to get his feet wet. Like good. We had Shinsuke Nakamura against Tala Tonga. I got it wrong last week when I said Tama Tonga was on the match graphic for this. It was Tala. Booking Shin against Tala was appropriate. This was the first bout on the show with Nakamura chants immediately at the bell. Use him more. The fans love him. Shin also looked great physically. Tala flashed a bit during the break, but few got to see it. Nakamura locked him in a triangle before hitting a leaping knee to the back of the head off the middle rope. He drove a knee into the midsection and then hit Meiko Satomura's Scorpio Rising. Sikoa distracted from Kinshasa, allowing Tala to counter with a nice power slam into an awful, awful choke slam to get the win. Tama stopped Solo from hitting the Samoan spike after the bell, instead delivering cutthroat to the back of Nakamura's head. Solo then picked him up for the spike, only for Damian Priest to save the day with a steel chair. I did not mind the match at all. Shin and Tala put in some nice work. Tala looked good against him literally up until the final chokeslam, which was shockingly poor. The distraction finish and heel victory was so annoyingly repetitive, especially when you consider that Nakamura remained super over with the fans, despite not doing much of anything. If you're gonna, let's say, have him lose to Tama eventually, okay, that's fine. Don't let him lose to Tala on the way. Raise his stock a bit. Have him beat the behemoth guy. You're not building him into a world champion. He's just a tall, strong dude. More frustrating was Tama turning on Shin and remaining aligned with MFT. Perhaps that is something that can still change over the next few weeks. WWE will often do something like this as a pump fake to gauge crowd reaction on someone as a babyface, and it was a positive here, but it felt strange spending months having them interact backstage only for this to be what happens in the ring. I'll hold judgment on that. I'll reserve it until the feud ends, but because I enjoyed the match, I'll say good. Like I said, I have reservations. Tama backstage told Solo that the reason everyone keeps coming after them is that they believe Sikoa is weak and therefore the family is weak. He told Solo that he needs to handle Damian on his own to prove their strength. Sikoa nodded, dapped him up, and decided to talk to Aldis and get the match made. I liked this direction a lot. I did not expect the match to happen later on the show. I figured it would be next week, but it did happen later. So we had Priest against Sikoa. Priest hit a bell clap before a superplex. He avoided Sikoa into the ring post and hit a full effort broken arrow. And then Tama distracted and Tala interfered with a strike before spinning Solo back inside. Tama distracted again, but Damian avoided Samoan Spike with a counter flatliner. Then he got distracted by Tala on the apron, Solo hitting Samoan Spike as Damian ran at him for the 1-2-3. So then the Tongans attacked after the bell, leading Keys down to clear them out of the ring. He dared Sikoa to go after him, but Solo turned his back and left. When Keys then tried to help Priest up, Damian put his hand around his throat for no reason whatsoever. So Royce confronted him later backstage over that action, saying R-Truth asked him to help him out. Priest screamed in his face, saying he had no business getting involved in his stuff, and he didn't care that Truth called him. Priest acknowledged that they had similar backgrounds, but they both acted hard about it. Basically, an identical finish here to the prior match, and a distraction interference finish for the third time in 4 matches on the show. It also came immediately after Tama told Solo, you need to go out there on your own, beat Priest, and prove that our family is strong. Except he and Tala combined to interfere 3 times in the match. That does not make a shred of sense.
So dumb.
Come on, Oos. It's a joke, right? It's a joke, Oos. You ribbing me?
Priest is out there looking like a schlub wrestling in a t-shirt. The Tongans ringside without Nakamura or R-Truth there told us from the start there was no way Damian was winning, and it also flew in the face of what we talked about a second ago. The bit with Royce at the end was idiotic. The backstage segment, for me at least, was even worse. Priest acting like he couldn't tell the difference between a thick black man and Tala Tonga. Come on. This was bad and disappointing from the prior segment. MFT is now painful to watch weekly. It is killing Solo and Tama, who both should be way better off operating individually on separate shows. They need to end this as soon as they possibly can. And lastly, Danhausen's cloning machine was sucking power from Rupp Arena, leading to multiple brownouts through the show. I wish he just took the entire electrical grid down. No one needs to operate in Rupp Arena ever again going forward. Aldis was enraged coming across Danhausen's science experiments, but in the middle of their argument, Danhausen disappeared. So Aldis went over to the cadaver, wanting to take a peek under the sheet, only to hear a voice of God, which was Danhausen, yelling at him to not touch it. Joe Tessitore then put over Danhausen's relationship with my New York Knicks before The Miz and Kit Wilson got interviewed about the curse situation. The Miz, of course, being a Cleveland Cavaliers fan. They again insisted that there is no curse, leading to Fraxium making fun of them and Kathy Kelly shading Miz for not attending games himself. That is a good point, Kathy. Yeah. That led to a challenge between Miz and Axiom for SmackDown in Spain next week. Just like last week, sometimes less is more when it comes to Danhausen, and I'm glad that WWE has taken its foot off the gas just a little bit over the last few shows. The deal with Aldis was perfectly fine. I enjoyed the setup for Axiom to potentially get the biggest singles win of his career in his home country. Kathy shading Miz was the best part of the segments, though. She needs more opportunities to show personality because she has it in droves. This was good. And that wraps up the good, the bad, and the ugly, so it allows me an opportunity to remind you here at Getting Over.
I happen to love the number 5.
And I hope you do as well. $5 a month, $50 for the entire year. You can become an official Getting Overhead. Just visit buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Sign up. You will get bonus audio, the fastest 5 minutes in professional wrestling, instant reactions to every major show, and exclusive news analysis posts every week. Please support us as we continue delivering performance-enhancing audio to your earholes. Help us pay our bills. Buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Get some extra content for your money. Vintage Chris Vanini is indeed back, so let's not waste any time getting to your 2026 WWE Clash in Italy Ultimate Preview. This will be a 5-match card for WWE Clash in Italy. The way it was building, I legitimately believed it was going to be 6 matches. That said, for all of the shows that have been 5 matches or even 4 that we've criticized, wanted more from, this is such a strong 5-match card. You are not going to get any pushback from me. Like, if every card was this strong, which is impossible because they're not going to use all of their top talent on every single one of these B level or C level premium live events. But these 5 matches, top to bottom, you just can't necessarily ask for more outside of the other Women's World Championship also being on the show. That would be the only thing that I believe is legitimately missing from this card vintage. So it's 5 matches, somewhat hysterical, yet unsurprising that both SmackDown matches are going to be airing on ESPN, with the 3 Raw matches being saved for the more premium portion of the PLE. It just shows you how WWE views the programs right now, as if the weekly creative was not enough of an indication. But overall, I think it's a strong card, and I'm excited to start breaking it down with you.
Strong card. This is like literally the best possible card you could have on a 5-match card.
That's what I just said.
Yeah, it's far more than strong. Like, it is literally as good as you can get.
A stupendous card. Okay, how about that?
Both men's world championships, a women's world championship, Becky Lynch with an Intercontinental, and then a Brock Lesnar match. And I've been trying to think, like, why the heck is this card so strong? Why are they loading up everything here now?
Mm-hmm.
And as we were talking, a possibility hit me, and that is, the next show is Night of Champions, Saudi Arabia. And you may have top people on this card who have said to WWE, I ain't going to Saudi Arabia with what's going on. And so it all got moved up to Clash in Italy. That's the only thing I can think of as to what this is the greatest card they've ever done outside of like a WrestleMania SummerSlam thing.
On
Yeah,
paper
like literally. Yeah. And why is that? Like, it's better than that Saudi show they did a couple of years ago that was really good. Like, it's literally everything. All I can think of is you're probably not going to see many, if not any of these people in Saudi Arabia for the next show. Am I crazy?
It's partially that. I believe you are onto something there. I also believe, don't forget, Night of Champions is going to be the King and Queen of the Ring tournament conclusions. So they already have different major matches that are going to be there. This Cody Rhodes-Gunther match that we're going to talk about momentarily, it was the finals of King of the Ring last year, wasn't it? And Cody won, and that's how he got the opportunity to fight John Cena at SummerSlam. So the big names being involved here just means they're also not in the King and Queen of the Ring tournaments, many of them. And therefore, the card was already going to be different because that is where those tournaments conclude. But I also believe, yes, a portion of it is some of the major stars putting their foot down and saying, I am not going to be working that show. I mean, look, the fact that Roman Reigns is not working Night of Champions, the biggest star for the biggest contract that they have, Saudi Arabia, that does speak volumes as far as I'm concerned. Now that I'm thinking about it, just to clarify, Cody beat Randy Orton in King of the Ring last year. He beat Gunther in, I believe it was Crown Jewel, when they both entered as champions. That's right. Makes more sense. But last year's show in this spot, it wasn't that great from a card standpoint either. The headline was John Cena and CM Punk. That was the huge match on that show. Cody and Randy was the King final. Jade Cargill and Asuka was the Queen final. You had that random Sami Zayn, Karrion Kross match. And it makes sense for Sami probably to be in King of the Ring or another match opportunity on the show. Rhea Ripley and Raquel Rodriguez had the street fight. And there was also, I want to say Jacob Fatu and Solo Sikoa, where they changed the United States Championship back. So it was not a super strong card for Night of Champions last year, even though, yes, the two men's matches were huge. I'm saying outside of like those star names. Now, just because Cody is wrestling Gunther on this show, I am not saying he's not going to be on Night of Champions. In fact, I would assume that he will be. I can't imagine that both Roman and Cody miss the show, but is this stacked up the way it has been because perhaps Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns and maybe Becky Lynch have refused to go over there? I absolutely buy that. So I think it's
also like they've confirmed that they are going to do the show, but like it still might not happen. There is no ceasefire.
Well, the show's going to happen. It just may not happen there.
Right. Yeah. And so then it's like, well, do we do Brock Oba at whatever on the last minute thing? I don't know. But that show also is still very much up in the air because there are many missiles also up in the air.
No question about it. Okay, let's get to the 5-match card. We're going to break down every single match. We'll give you our predictions at the end. We will provide a pre-show expectation grade for WWE Clash in Italy. Intercontinental Championship. Becky Lynch defending against Sol Ruca. For anyone who missed our Saturday night's main event instant analysis, we explained how this suddenly became a title match without Ruca pinning Lynch on that show. Make sure you listen to that podcast. Becky backstage at Raw was informed that Sol sustained injuries from their brawl at Saturday night's main event. She said some wrestlers get punched in the face and become legendary. Others get punched in the face and learn their place, which is what has happened with Ruca. I love that line. Becky pointed out how her challenger does not have a legitimate win since joining the main roster, made some references to Sol's surfer gimmick, and said there's a huge difference between striving for greatness and standing across from it in the ring. Another masterful promo by Bex, certainly the best WWE could do, considering Sol was not available for the show. Her even being given the title match is thin, and if I had the book, I'd probably have just pushed this off the card and replaced it with something else. That's easier said than done on 1 week of notice, especially for an overseas show that you're trying to blow out. But I don't love the way this has been booked. I mentioned it Saturday. Sol's been botched city with her finisher. She hasn't earned this in any real way. 0-2 in real matches and a disqualification victory in 2 minutes. This should be the main event of Raw next Monday. It shouldn't be on this card as far as I'm concerned. And I love Becky Lynch, and I believe Sol Ruca has a chance to be the future.
Yeah, like they're leaning into the 0-2 stuff too. Like Becky mentioned it on this promo, and so your natural reaction is, then why is she getting a title shot? So it just the booking of Soul on top of the botching has just not going to repeat what I said on the Saturday Night's Main Event show, but it's just been a very strange start to her career.
Yeah, I believe if this had been booked differently, you could potentially make an argument for Ruka to win. And I still could. If you want me to play devil's advocate on myself, the top part of the Raw women's division right now is in dire straits. Stephanie Vaquer is out. Nikki Bella, not that she should be in that position, but you could at least plausibly put her there. She's out. Becky Lynch is the Intercontinental Champion. Bayley and Lyra Valkyria are working in the tag team division. They'd never turned to Raquel Rodriguez or Roxanne Perez. They don't have women to challenge Liv. So the argument would be that you have Soul win the title from Becky, and then Becky goes up against Liv, heel versus heel to some degree, but at least it's something that you can do. It's a placeholder until Vaquer comes back. But I just don't think that makes sense. And similarly, I can't imagine Soul being, losing this and then getting bubbled up to the main event of this card. So I don't know what WWE is going to do with Liv Morgan. I talked about that a little bit earlier. But here, when the whole storyline coming in is that Ruka doesn't deserve the match, was, granted it only because of a disqualification, and she's been botch city on her 3 appearances so far, I don't see how you can change the title. So logically, I'm going with Becky retaining, even though I do believe there's a legitimate chance they switch it. I think would be a huge mistake.
I'm going with Soul winning. And I think whichever way this goes really tells us about her future. Like if she wins, hey, she's Intercontinental Champ already, rock it, we're going. If you lose this, even if Becky cheats again or something, and you fall to 0-3, and 0-3 is becoming your character, that would signal to me that they feel like they might have botched this, and maybe it's time to pull her back down a few pegs and get some wins against nobodies and start to work her way back up. I can't imagine an 0-3 start for someone they're promoting so much, but it's maybe you see the iffy promos and the botches, and maybe they say, maybe we did call her up a little bit too early. Let's have her lose via cheating. Let's pull her down a bit, get back to some fundamentals, not put too much pressure on her, and kind of start this over again.
Yeah.
That's what I would think if Becky wins, but I don't think that's going to happen. And I'm picking Soul to win. This, it's been a very strong championship belt, but it's not a world championship.
No.
And so I think you can say, Sol Ruka won the IC championship in her 4th match or whatever. And that's okay.
Yeah. I mean, I've said this many times on our NXT show. I believe I said it Saturday as well. Sol was called up 6 to 12 months too early. Her promo's not there. Her in-ring is not, diversified enough. She's all springboard moves. She doesn't have the game between the ropes on the canvas to complement that yet. And it's just obvious. I don't understand why they pulled this trigger. There were other women that they could have used. They could have put Mariah May, or excuse me, that's the first time I've called her that, Blake Monroe, or Jordan Grace. They could have moved one of them over to Raw if they felt like they needed another woman on the show. Debuted either of them as baby faces too, or, put them there. This, to me, the way I believe this is going to go is Soul loses this match. I don't think it's through cheating. I think Becky just veteran wiles outsmarts her, outclasses her. There's 2 months until SummerSlam. I believe they build Soul back up. She gets a bunch of singles wins on the brand. They build her back up into a number 1 contender for SummerSlam. It is there that she beats Becky Lynch for the title. That's my prediction.
Could be.
All right, let's go to the WWE Women's Championship. Rhea Ripley defending against Jade Cargill, their second meeting for the title, hour 1 on ESPN. They totally over-delivered at WrestleMania. If we can get that same match again, but 5 minutes longer, it'll be fantastic. We already discussed, of course, the Ripley and Cargill feud earlier in the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, given a ton happened Friday night on SmackDown, so we're not going to get into it any deeper here. But Vintage, I would be utterly shocked if they put the title on Ripley at WrestleMania. She's been doing great with it. And then they just flipped it right back to Cargill. Doesn't make any sense. I have Rhea retaining the title with help, most likely, from Charlotte Flair and or Alexa Bliss.
Yeah, there's no chance Rhea's going to win. Jade has pinned Rhea twice leading into this. It's all set up for Rhea to retain. But as we said at Saturday Night's Main Event, we are liking what Jade and B-Fab and Michin can be. Like that is something. So Jade can lose here, and it's not the end because maybe they have found something to kind of keep building off of.
Yeah, I love the idea of them working as a trio, causing chaos on the brand. There's a bunch of that women's roster over on SmackDown has been loaded up after being thin as shit. And guess what? There's a lot of trios on the brand right now. So there's a lot of things they can do with her, away from the title. Tiffany Stratton's United States champion. You could have her drop it to someone else in the near future because you don't want to run that back. Have Jade win the U.S. title and go on a run with that. That would make a lot of sense. So it'll be really interesting to see the way this is booked and what develops coming out of it. Oba Femi versus Brock Lesnar, Part 2. Paul Heyman opened Raw to hype this match, but immediately got drowned out by Oba chants. Lesnar was not in attendance, but he rather cut a promo as part of a video package, which was a bit confusing. It sounded like he taped it the week after WrestleMania. Brock admitted his retirement was real in the moment, but said while he's capable of taking an ass whooping, he's not going to go out like that. He called himself a, quote, humbled, retired beast, unquote, and promised to conquer and rule over Femi. Oba interrupted with WWE having altered his entrance for the fourth and hopefully final time because they perfected it by adding a sound clip before the extended pause. So you know he's coming out, then you build the anticipation, and then he actually enters. Absolutely nailed it. Please now leave well enough alone. Femi cornered Heyman, just like Samoa Joe once did, saying he would not hurt him because he needs him alive to tell the tale of Lesnar and how he took him out twice, how he retired him twice. Oba said that he can claim it's not personal, just business, but 4 F5s seems personal. Then he signed the contract on Heyman's chest and told him to deliver a message. Quote, last time I was fighting to beat you, this time I'm fighting to kill you. Unquote.
Ooh.
Perfection achieved. I was a bit concerned there might be a surprise attack from Brock when it was necessary for Oba to regain his strength, just considering the beating he took last week, but that didn't happen. I have no notes whatsoever on Femi's promo. The guy checks every possible box. Looks, aura, presentation, promo, wrestling ability, moveset. I mentioned Joe a bit ago. This was not that, but Oba has been doing this for 5 years, not 25, like Joe when he cornered Heyman, and his talent level is astronomical. It is quite something to witness in real time. It's also smart to have Lesnar not downplay Femi's victory over him and admit that he did indeed call it quits, at least temporarily, due to the defeat. That is how much Oba humbled him. However, what I don't like is how he's still calling himself retired when he's literally wrestling on Sunday. That's not how shit works. It's fine to say that I did retire and it was an overreaction. Now I'm back. But don't say I'm still retired and humbled, but now I want to beat your ass while I'm retired. Regardless of that, super strong go home.
Well, especially because it happened like barely a month ago. It's not like he's been retired for 5 years and he's saying you're going to fight a retired guy. You're barely even retired. And that also brought up the question of like, does that mean this is the last match for Brock? Like if he wins, is he still retired? If he loses, is that it? Are we not going to do the big Brock actual retirement match or goodbye? So that just added more questions for me, but I thought everything else he said was fine. Everything Oba did was great. Mm-hmm. And he said kill. Like I had wondered, we'd said about the Cody thing, easy to find, hard to beat. He wasn't saying hard to kill. So I was like, maybe they don't want to say kill. Well, then Oba said kill. So maybe kill is something they can say every once in a while and it's not a catchphrase.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You all know I've never been a fan in wrestling, and I don't like it. Any company that does it, of I will kill you.
Yes,
I'm willing to die for this. It's not. You're not. This is not MMA. It's not boxing. You can still say, I'm willing to. There's other ways to phrase it. Maybe I'm not doing it off the top of my head right now, without invoking death. I just don't think that's necessary for wrestling.
Yeah, because then it opens up the box of, well, in a no DQ match, can you shoot somebody?
Right.
Like, or something like
Yeah.
that. So that's why you don't say kill, because you're not actually trying to.
Yeah, like you can commit vehicular manslaughter, but you can't bring a knife. Drew McIntyre can't use his claymore. Like, just keep it,
Yes.
keep it to a certain level. Now,
So
go ahead. Yeah.
one other thing on this. So like Oba said, I thought I wrote this down. I want to make sure he said this. He said this is the final chapter, right? So this is the last one between these two. Is that the read on
I
it?
believe he said, like, this will be the final chapter because I'm going to beat you again and that's it. Like, that's what he's saying. I don't think he was there to establish that they won't fight again.
Okay, because like WWE also tweeted out the quote in like all caps final chapter. And I was like, does that mean this is the only other one between these two? And if that is the case, that impacts, obviously, I think, who I'm picking.
Oh,
so,
it completely impacts it. Look, my reaction to this match on Sunday, it's going to be entirely based on how the finish is booked, right? Because I think we are all going to go into this match assuming, base level assumption, right? Knowing nothing else, that Lesnar wins and it goes to a rubber match. Now, I'm not going to call that the right or wrong decision until we see how it is done creatively. Does Brock cheat like Undertaker did in the middle of their feud because he realizes it's the only way he can win? Does Oba get caught accidentally in some way and Brock takes advantage? Does Lesnar just hit 5 F5s and beat him clean and anger a lot of people? Or does Oba win and that's the end of the feud? Or does Oba win and Brock is still going after him and they somehow set up a last man standing retirement match where Oba sweeps him 3-0? It's impossible to know what the right call is until we see the execution and then determine whether what they're doing makes sense or whether it got Oba over more than him winning their lone match to this point at WrestleMania does. But I will say this before you give your prediction. I'll let you go first on this one. To this point, WWE is batting 1,000 on this feud. Every decision has been the right one. Every segment has delivered in one way or another. The only thing that didn't work was the second week of the Open Challenge where no one answered and he went back and, dragged Los Garza out to the ring, beat them, and then nothing else happened. Other than that, and that even wasn't bad, it was just like a shrug. Other than that, they have nailed this and they have definitely nailed the Oba and Brock of it all. So whereas sometimes we enter matches pessimistic, I could see Lesnar winning, I could see Femi winning, and I could see myself being optimistic no matter the result.
Yeah, I mean, as we've talked this through, I feel like there's only one answer here in terms of how this ends up going, but I don't know.
You got to decide.
Get into picks now?
You got to decide because I told you you had the opportunity to go first. So
I'm going to pick Brock, and I'm going to say this is not the final chapter. It's not the final match between the two. You do a classic 1-1 rubber match. Maybe it's at SummerSlam. Probably at SummerSlam. Because Oba beating Brock a second time, like, I don't want to say nothing, but like, it kind of does nothing. You built the win at WrestleMania was as much as you could give somebody for beating Brock Lesnar.
Mm-hmm.
What does doing it a second time do? Like, nothing.
A second time without a stipulation. It's not a retirement match. It's not a last man standing. It's not a Hell in a Cell. It's just another match.
Yeah, and so I can't see in that point he won't be fighting Otis and whoever anymore. He'll be like Andre the Giant, see him 4 times a year because like what else is even there for him other than the World Championship, which he said he was going for after WrestleMania.
Well,
so
yeah.
all of wrestling logic here tells you that Brock is going to win this one. Maybe he cheats, and we get a third one between these two, probably at SummerSlam, probably with a stipulation, perhaps. I want to say putting Brock's career on the line, but he said he's already retired, so I don't know. But that's my thought.
Yeah, it's super tough. Like I said, SummerSlam is 2 months after this show. So then what does Oba do for 2 months? He disappears from TV until Brock comes back. Like, that is the difficult part with running a 3-part series here. If it was going to be only 2 matches between them, so let's say the plan was for Oba to win this, then this would need to be a stipulation of some kind. I already mentioned it. Last man standing, Hell in a Cell, retirement match, whatever the case might be. So I know it's not going to be a 2-match series. That means it has to go to 3. The third, it can go, Oba beats him twice regular. Lesnar destroys Femi after the match. Like, Oba gets the win. Lesnar gets to his feet and just bludgeons him. Knocks him out of action for 6 weeks. We don't see him again until early July. I guess that would be 4 weeks, 5 weeks. You don't see him again until early July. And you build the match over the remaining 3-4 weeks for SummerSlam, retirement, last man standing, whatever the case might be. Don't forget his match that could have been his retirement, but was not, was the last man standing match against Roman Reigns at SummerSlam when they did the tractor thing. So they could really call that back and make that the retirement. And if you do it, Lesnar doesn't have to win. Like I just explained, you can have Oba win, Lesnar just lay him out, and then get to that third match. The question is,
I would hate that.
Here's the question. What? Oba just winning 3 times?
Yes.
Here's the question and why I believe he loses. But the person who beats Oba Femi first, that needs to be something. In NXT, it was Tony D'Angelo who did it. He is now the NXT champion. It took him a while to get there, but he's the NXT champion. Ricky Saints did it, became NXT champion. That was a little bit odd. Femi won the title back from him. Didn't really do anything for Saints the way it was booked. It was booked poorly. On the main roster, do you save the first Oba defeat for the person who takes the World Heavyweight Championship or WWE Championship off of him, and you allow him to go on an undefeated streak until that moment? If not, and you want him to take an L to get that out of the way, to show that, okay, yeah, he's a monster and he's great, but he's not unbeatable, then having Lesnar be the first person or only other person to defeat him until someone actually topples him makes a lot of sense. I believe you can excuse the loss with Lesnar. I mentioned the booking of the Brock Lesnar-Undertaker feud where Brock dominated that feud, but Taker won the middle match because he cheated, which was very uncharacteristic of him. It's not necessarily uncharacteristic of Lesnar to cheat. It would be uncharacteristic of him to need to cheat. So that's where I believe this goes. Lesnar cheats in one way or another, ends up beating Femi, and they wind up doing a rubber match, most likely at SummerSlam.
I will say if there's a couple things we know about Triple H's booking and what he likes. He loves qualifiers and triple threats.
Mm-hmm.
He loves a masked individual. And he loves somebody going on a very long undefeated streak.
He does.
And like some of the longest title reigns of all time, several of them have happened in recent years. Gunther was his first main roster loss at WrestleMania 40, loss to Sami Zayn for the IC title. Was that the first one?
No, he technically lost, I want to say via countout to Chad Gable or something.
Oh, I do remember that. Yeah.
But it was his first time getting pinned on the main roster, I believe.
Yeah. So like we have seen that a lot. And so if you want to tell me Oba's going to win, go 3-0 against Brock, get beat up after the second one, eventually make his way to champion, then he's this big, gigantic thing. Maybe he turns heel in the process.
Right.
So then you have your next Cody Rhodes type of guy being the one to beat him in 3 years from now. Like, I could see that happening too.
Javon Evans as a babyface beating him 2 years from now, winning the title, young champion, youngest next to Randy Orton, or maybe even younger. I don't know the ages right now off the top of my head.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of ways they can do it. I think you and I agree, no matter who wins, this is not their last match.
Correct.
And do you also agree that
even though they kind of sounded like they said it would be, I can't see it happening.
And do you also agree that not that it doesn't matter who wins, but that either option can work?
Yes, I would hate Oba winning and getting beat up afterward because I hate that all the time in wrestling.
It's a trope, yeah.
Because it devalues a win essentially. But yes, I could see it.
What if he won and Lesnar again is dejected in the ring and Femi's walking off and Lesnar chases him down the ramp and destroys him by the set, as opposed to just a beat up in the ring immediately after the bell?
That would be a much more unique way to do it.
Yeah, I like that. He almost feigns retirement again. Then he's like, F this, chases him down, destroys him, throws him off a stage. And that explains why a monster like Femi needs a month off, because he got attacked and bludgeoned by Lesnar, comes back, they restart the feud for SummerSlam. Boom, good to go. So Look for something like that.
That makes it a Brock story more than an Oba story, but that would be intense.
It makes it a Brock story for a month and a half, and then it becomes an Oba story again. He wants revenge. He wants to retire him. He just needs him out of the company, and he gets the job done.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's go to the double main event, even though these are bookending the card. First,
this is if we're being honest, this is a quintuple main event show.
It's not a quintuple main event. I could call it a triple main event.
It's a triple or quadruple if you don't want to include the women. If you don't want to include the women's IC title on there, but man,
I'm not including that or Rhea Ripley and Jade Cargill. They couldn't even main event a night of WrestleMania. And on this show, they're not a main event. It's just not.
Maybe
Jade's not over enough to be. If it was Rhea Ripley, Becky Lynch, I would agree with you, but it's Rhea Ripley, Jade Cargill. So if you want to call it a triple main event, fine. But this will be bookending the show most likely. It is first hour on ESPN, the WWE Championship on the line. Cody Rhodes defending against Gunther. Obviously, we spent a lot of time discussing this already in the main event, and there will be a go home from SmackDown on Friday that we can't discuss here because we're publishing the show on Tuesday. I'm of a mixed mind about this, right? Like, I completely disagree with them flipping the title back to Cody and doing what they did before WrestleMania. I just felt that, the Drew McIntyre of it all, they crowned him too late and they took it off of him too early. Super frustrating. The question is, did they kind of use Cody as a transitional champion to a degree to get the title onto Gunther? Or is the goal for Cody and Randy to rekindle their feud in a real way and atone for their WrestleMania, feud and storyline, just like Cody did a year ago with John Cena at SummerSlam. And that is where I lean. I do believe it's plausible that Gunther wins this title. I don't believe that Cody and Randy needs a championship in order to continue. Don't forget, Orton punted his head off. That was the last moment, night one at WrestleMania, and it has not been revisited other than the 3-4 weeks that Cody was sporting a black eye and Randy did not show up. And it is for that reason. I'm not just going to give you a win prediction. I'm going to give you a prediction on the way this match finishes. And that is that Randy Orton returns, attempts to take out Cody, or either gets thwarted by Cody or takes out both of them, hits RKOs on Cody and Gunther, the referee's down. Cody winds up winning, retaining the title, and we wind up getting Cody and Orton rematched at SummerSlam. I believe we see Randy Orton return to WWE in this match. It excuses a loss somewhat for Gunther, keeps the title on Cody Rhodes, and it's also a big moment for the first match on ESPN. Gets the crowd involved, gets people watching maybe to, tune into the rest of the PLE.
I'm close to that. I think Randy Orton comes back and we get a no contest, the same way Drew McIntyre attacked during the Oba Cody match at Saturday Night's Main Event. Because I don't think they want to give Gunther a loss. And Randy Orton trying to help Gunther and still losing, even more so. And so I think we go no contest. Do I think that's a weird way to do a thing on ESPN?
I don't think you can go no contest on this.
You don't think we just have not a no contest. I guess it would be Gunther gets the win because Cody gets attacked by Randy and it's a DQ finish. That's what I meant more than no contest. Basically, like, Gunther wins, but he doesn't win. And we just kind of get no real winner out of that. That's what I guess.
Oh, it's like a DQ kind of?
DQ finish. Yes. I don't know why I said no contest. I just meant Randy interferes in the match. We don't get a real winner. Gunther technically wins by DQ.
The other thing you can do is you can give a visual win. So you can have the referee get knocked down, Gunther knock out Cody or powerbomb him and get the crowd chanting 1, 2, 3. Randy Orton comes in. He doesn't want to fight Gunther. He wants to fight Cody for the title. He RKOs Gunther, throws Cody on top of him, or RKOs both of them and throws Cody on top of him. Then Cody gets the win. He didn't earn it. Gunther didn't really get beaten by Cody. You get out of there and you go, you move forward. So that is possible.
Yeah, I maybe, but I'm going to go with the DQ finish. It's kind of weird. We're both picking a surprise return to happen here, but like, where is Randy Orton? That has not even been addressed on the show for 2 months. Mm-hmm. At this point, you have to assume Randy will come back for SummerSlam and we'll run it there. I would love Gunther to win the title here, by the way. I would love Randy to come in and even cost Cody the title and Gunther wins, or just Gunther wins. What I would book, if it was me, I'd book Gunther just wins straight up no shenanigans, no nothing. The same way he beat John Cena and Goldberg and AJ Styles and all that stuff, and continue to build Gunther as that guy. I just don't think that's going to happen.
The only thing they can't do is they cannot have him lose straight up. He can't lose this clean.
Cody?
Gunther.
Agree.
Any other outcome, there are varying degrees of, acceptability for the other outcomes. Cody winning clean, unacceptable. DQs, no contest, interference, all that. There's varying degrees of whether we will accept it, whether we will like it, find it entertaining, whatever the case might be. But Gunther cannot just get pinned by Cody clean, no interference, no bullshit.
I don't know what the Gunther plan is, because if we think we're going to get 3 Oba Brock matches, that means we're not going to have Gunther retire Brock at SummerSlam, in part because he's already retired. So like having Gunther be the guy to beat Goldberg and Cena and AJ and then Seth at Mania, like where else is this ultimately leading other than winning the world championship?
That's why this was so strange to me.
And or retiring Brock Lesnar. So like, I don't know, maybe Randy comes in, we get a DQ, we go triple threat with the 3 of them at SummerSlam and Gunther wins it there. Like maybe that's it. I've been trying to figure out for months, like where we're going with Gunther, because it feels like they don't fully know. Well, and it was reported it thought was going to be Gunther Roman coming out of Mania, and instead they went with Jacob Fatu and Gunther's moving over.
I mean, you're saying reported. We reported that. Getting over reported that. The plan was Roman Reigns Gunther clash in Italy. That was what they were supposed to do, and I believe Cody was going to continue. I don't know this part for sure, but I believe Cody. Maybe there was a reprieve, but he was going to continue his feud with Orton, and I think they were going to run that at SummerSlam. And I don't think Jacob Fatu was really majorly factored into anything, or maybe he was going to, feud with Cody as an interim feud because they had their issue regarding the Drew McIntyre of it all. Don't forget, right? So it seemed like that was going to happen, but now it looks like, because I don't believe Jacob Fatu was on SmackDown last week. It seems like Jacob is now on Raw. Gunther was transferred over to SmackDown. So they just completely blew up their plans for one reason or another going into SummerSlam. I don't know what's going to happen right now. And we'll talk about Roman Reigns and Jacob Fatu next, because there's a whole conversation to have there. But long and short of it is I'm of the belief that Cody is walking out as champion. You feel the same. We just believe they're going to get there differently, right?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the DQ finish.
All right, let's get to the World Heavyweight Championship. Roman Reigns defending against Jacob Fatu in tribal combat. Before we break this down, I will note this is the first time both men's world titles will be defended on the same PLE that is not one of the big 4 since Bash in Berlin 2024. So it's been 2 years since that has happened. Pierce was in Reigns' locker room on Raw saying Fatu doesn't deserve the rematch regardless of the stipulation and the family situation. Instead, he should be fired. Roman insisted he had no choice but to agree when tribal combat was invoked, and he was surprised Jacob even knew that he could pull that ace out of his sleeve. Reigns further insisted that it needed to be written into the contract that Fatu serve him or else get fired from WWE if he loses, saying the alternative outcome would be an issue for the whole company, Jacob beating him and becoming tribal chief. I appreciated the specificity here, considering it was lacking immensely going into Backlash. They came out of it saying Jacob was supposed to acknowledge him. I never remember that or heard that, and I certainly don't remember it being part of the contract. It was also interesting to see Reigns be so aligned with management, considering how they were at odds for years during his long reign on SmackDown. So this segment with Pierce, I actually enjoyed quite a bit.
Yes, and also getting more into what tribal combat match is going to mean, which was still like uncertain, and so they're trying to, I guess, bring some specificity to it. So that's appreciated.
So this part, I'm going to go long on, and I have a feeling that you might agree based on what you said at the beginning part of this show. So the contract signing main evented Raw, with Fatu signing before Reigns entered, and then for no reason throwing a desk chair at a dozen security guards. Just
that was the start of it. I'm like, what are we doing? Like, what is going on? Yeah. And it was just a weird start.
Like, why are you throwing a chair at innocent people for no reason? You signed a contract. You got your match. What's the problem? So Roman comes out, then he signs as Jacob was not held back, but security stood in front of him, demanding that everyone leave the ring. Reigns did, because they signed a blood oath, which meant they couldn't touch each other until Italy. Okay. Reigns said Fatu should have acknowledged him after Backlash. Jacob said he's not like everyone else who bends a knee to Roman, though he admits Reigns is the reason their family has been elevated to the top of the mountain. Fatu said Reigns can only take them so far, though, and it's time for a change. How much higher can you get than the top of the mountain and the promised land, which is something else that he said. This was confusing. Jacob criticized Roman for bending the rules at Backlash, not honoring the bloodline code. Then he went from reserved to animated, saying he was going to dog walk Reigns in Italy and hand him consequences. Roman said he would follow Jacob as tribal chief if he beats him. But if Fatu fails, Reigns is going to walk him like a dog, domesticate him, and force him to serve Roman while learning to love his tribal chief. Jacob said that sounds like a win-win for him, as he'll have a job either way, but he'll win, and Roman will have to acknowledge him. Then they dapped up and put their foreheads together to end the segment, which I actually enjoyed because they're family at the end of the day, and it's tribal combat, and they know what's at stake. So they kind of put all the other differences aside, knowing that they're going to have this knockdown, drag-out fight. So that is kind of removed from everything else I'm about to say. But call me crazy, Vintage. This was the worst segment they've had together since the feud started, and it all began with the tone, which was completely off. These guys have literally been at each other's throats for 2 months. And now that tribal combat has been invoked, everything calms down. I understand that to a degree thematically, don't get me wrong, but in a wrestling context, it was an extremely odd shift of tone when two guys have been on site for the last couple of months. Beyond that, though, there were major problems with the segment progression. First, Reigns demanding everyone get out of the ring. It just sounded off. Then saying that tribal combat, something deeply rooted in Samoan lineage outside of wrestling, somehow also meant a no-touch clause was invoked. That was random. Then you have Jacob saying Roman has taken the whole family to the top, but they still need to go in a new direction. The only other direction from up is down, bro. He said absolutely nothing about his station within the family, which is where this entire feud began. Fatu was not hungry for more power necessarily. He was hungry for more wealth. He wanted to be champion. He wanted to be the top Samoan, not necessarily the tribal chief, but the Samoan champion in WWE. If Reigns has elevated the whole family to the top, but Fatu wasn't seeing the fruits of that elevation, which is again how it started, that should have been the focus of the promo. Yeah, Roman, you've helped me out. My life is better than it was. But it's one thing to be eating, possibly sharing scraps. It's another to be eating heavy. All the luxurious items, the car, the money, the mansion, all the things that you have that is not trickling down to the rest of us. So that's where the promo should have gone. And then at the end, Jacob said what I did, I believe last week, that this guy was so worried about feeding his family and gaining wealth, he should not have been acting out the entire time to put himself in danger of losing his damn job by going off the handle like he has been consistently. Now, the tribal combat match where you're putting everything on the line is a win-win because he'll still at least be employed, even if he's being dog-walked by his cousin. Doesn't that reduce his motivation to actually emerge victorious because he knows he has safety on the other side? Like I said, maybe you or others listening had a different interpretation of all of this, but I have been hugely positive about this feud for 2 months, despite other people out there acting like WWE going back to the bloodline is some crime, even though they have started a completely different chapter in their story. They've elevated Jacob while positioning Roman as the top guy. Somehow that's terrible, despite most of their segments and their first match being great. But despite my positivity for everything up until this point, this segment, this completely missed the mark as far as I was concerned. And it was somehow the worst part of what was largely a great episode of Raw.
On top of that, the delivery of these promos was very off. Like, it felt like they didn't even quite fully know what they were trying to say and what tone with which they should say it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I was talking about at the beginning of this show. It feels like the leading into Mania, the story coming out of Mania, leading into Backlash was simple and straightforward. Jacob's part of the family. He hasn't gotten the trickle down from Roman that he feels like he should, and he wants it. Okay, cool. But then we come out of Backlash with Jacob's going to get fired. And it's like, what? Like, why? How did we suddenly take the stakes up to such a dramatic degree that from that point on, it became difficult to figure out what and why they're fighting over things and what Roman even wants from it. And even a little bit on this one, what Jacob wants from it, like you said. So it's just like they got away from the original story, which was a really good story. And now they've tried to throw these philosophical things with all this lore that we don't even know into it as if we're supposed to understand it, and made it confusing, not only for those of us watching, but I think them in explaining it too.
That's exactly right. I mean, think back to the last tribal combat, which I believe was Solo Sikoa. That was the entire feud. Solo wanted to be the head of the table. Like, that was the whole gimmick. Jacob didn't want that at the beginning. He just wanted the championship and the riches that came with leading the family. He wasn't looking for the Ula Fala. He wasn't trying to do any of that bullshit. And he brought out the Tongan death grip and things got more serious, and all that was totally fine. Even though, I did find it weird at the very beginning that he didn't just go after Cody Rhodes, who was the champion on his own brand, someone he had issues with that was not his cousin, and they could have reigned together at the top of the family. But okay, I digress from that. But yeah, this week, it just like diverted into another way. And I'm not going to sit here and say like neither of them knew what they were supposed to do when they went in there. But it definitely felt to me for the first time, we've been praising Jacob for doing his best promo work since joining WWE in this feud with Roman. He's been pretty damn great. It felt like he either didn't know what he was supposed to say, or he got over his skis a little bit and then tried to course correct and wasn't able to do so. I don't know if he messed it up. I don't know if this was the plan and they said exactly what they were supposed to. It did not work for me. And the show ended, and I'm just like, I am, for the first time, like less excited about their match going into the show. Whereas a month ago at Backlash, they got me more excited on the go home to see what they would do when they went head to head. Also, even though this one's going to be no disqualification and they're going to be able to do a lot more shit, doing this exactly 1 month later, there not being a larger gap between the two matches is a bit frustrating as far as I'm concerned. But look, that's where we are, and this is the match that we're getting. It's going to main event, Reigns and Fatu, tribal combat. Let me make a case. The case for Fatu winning, okay, is freshening up creative and freshening up the WWE landscape. Crowning someone new, putting Roman in a position where he's never been before, not just standing there not as champion, but someone who actually needs to follow someone else. The Usos being in a similar situation. That's the case. To me, that's not enough. It's not a good enough reason to change the title here, because you'd be knocking Reigns down to such a significant degree, having him literally follow another family member. That is something that probably should be saved. If they're going to do it with Fatu, because they can't do it with Jay, not at this point. You do that later down the line. And that is why I am so surprised this stipulation has been added to this match. You can have Fatu follow Reigns and, get dog walked behind him and acknowledge him and so on and so forth, and be a pit bull attack dog werewolf, just like he was for Solo Sikoa. He was super overdoing that for a long time. And then you can still come back to having them do a third match and Reigns puts Fatu over, he wins the title, and you go from there. And that's more where I lean on what they're going to do. The problem is, I thought Roman was going to be taking this title into WrestleMania. And if you have him beat Fatu and put him behind him in the bloodline pecking order, how do you have him keep that title into WrestleMania unless Fatu doesn't win until late 2027 or something? And now you're talking about something completely different. Beyond that, it would really knock Jacob down a peg to go from main eventing, being a top guy, to being an attack dog again. And the biggest and greatest confusion here is that the way Roman spoke in this segment and talked about putting Jacob underneath him under his foot, and what they're also doing with LA Knight and the Usos, and what they're specifically doing with the Usos, and the way they have been knocked down 3 pegs by realigning with Reigns. That is all heel stuff. I don't know how you book Roman as a babyface if he has Jacob doing his bidding and the Usos, not having their own motivations to succeed individually or as a team, unless it's at Roman's behest. So, my prediction for the match is Reigns wins, and people are going to be upset about that because it's not new or fresh or whatever. But I don't see another option here. I can't imagine Fatu wins this title. If he does, it will be crazy interesting. And, I'll be floored by the decision, and I'll be extremely excited to see what happens the following Monday on Raw. I just don't know how WWE can pull that trigger and have their number one guy lose a tribal combat match on a B show in Italy. I don't see it happening.
Do we think this is the last match of the night?
I believe this will be the main event, yes.
Because we know Cody will be in the ESPN hour.
Yeah, I believe it's going to go. My guess on the order would be Cody and Gunther, Rhea and Jade, Oba and Lesnar, Becky and Sol, and then Roman and Jacob. That's my guess.
Probably. And if you put this in the main event, I think it increases. I don't know. Like, does it increase the chances of a title change in the main event? Or does Cody being on ESPN increase the chances of a title change there because they want it in front of the biggest possible audience?
I would say that.
I don't know.
Would be the case. Yeah.
These are just the things that I think about in terms of how a show is laid out and what is going to be where. Mm-hmm. Because of the stipulation, like, feels like WWE keeps unnecessarily booking themselves into extremely difficult corners and then having trouble explaining certain things away. Like, who attacked Jacob Fatu way back when? Mm-hmm. Are we ever going to get back to that? I don't know. And, you do the promise, the help from Paul Heyman, but then Gunther's just like dismissing it anyway. It was like, what even was the point of that? And so I try to think, what is the point of throwing the stipulation onto this match? To me, it tells me it's the end of it. Like, you can't go any further than tribal combat match when you're with Roman Reigns. And if it's the final match, I think it's a B show in May, I think Roman wins.
Yeah.
Now, what exactly is Jacob doing after that? I don't know exactly, but I think we've hit the ceiling on how far this story can go. I don't think Jacob is ready to be world champion yet.
No.
So, gonna go with Roman.
That's why the whole stipulation of you have to, not just that you have to acknowledge me, but I'm going to dog walk you. You're going to be under my thumb. That's why that's so weird, because I don't believe that happened with Solo Sikoa. They still were like, just separate.
Yeah. If this, that's the other thing. It's like, what exactly does tribal combat mean? It seems to kind of change every time. But if this was just the second match between these two, maybe Jacob gets like a DQ win of some kind where he gets a win, but he doesn't win the title, or a count out or something, or he wins and he doesn't get the title. And then it sets up the third match.
Maybe he wins the title and then Reigns invokes tribal combat for the title because he wants a rematch, and he'll put up the head of the table as well. And then he wins it back from him. Like, that's the way you do it. You give him a short title run, and you have Reigns take it back inside of 2 months at SummerSlam or something like that. Like,
but this match is not for the tribal chiefness, right? Isn't that
it is
the last tribal?
No, it is.
Was for? Okay.
No, it is. It's for both. It's for the championship and it's for tribal chief.
So you're gonna just flip the title and the tribal chief title,
right? That's why I can't.
Like
and then what? And then what? Roman has to win back tribal chief in addition to the championship while working from under Jacob's thumb. It just doesn't make sense. I don't understand why. And look, again, maybe the booking makes sense at the end, and at SummerSlam we're like, oh, that's why they did it this way. Or Jacob turns 9 months from now, and and it's a huge moment, and people are going crazy, and we're like, oh wow, yeah, okay, it was all worth it up till there. But in the moment, it just seems really odd that they went to such a deep extreme, knowing the consequences of it. And I got to tell you, you mentioned the attack on Jacob. It would be a great payoff if whomever attacked him cost him this match. Like, that would make a lot of sense. Especially what if it's one of the Samoans? Or what if it's someone that we don't know? But something else popped into my head when I was thinking about how can this match end? How can Jacob be excused in the loss? You know who hasn't been on TV since WrestleMania? Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre.
Oh, God.
And they're in Europe.
Yeah. I love Drew. Drew Roman would be fun. I don't want any more Drew Jacob. I don't want any more Drew Cody. I want like a fully fresh thing for Drew.
Drew Roman would be ridiculous.
I want a new character for Drew. He's just kind of been a whiner for a while. I'm ready for him to move on to something else. I do worry doing Drew Roman would be Drew just complaining about all the cheating that Roman used to do and that the Usos help him all the time, and it's not more than that. I want to know what it means to Drew.
But I mean, that's their story though. Like he legitimately
It
got
is. I'm
screwed
just
by
saying
the
it's a
bloodline for 2
continuation
years.
of just the complaining, and I'd love to think more about. I mean, I guess Drew did win the title last year, so he did get there. But like, I don't know what does Drew McIntyre the man want?
Mm-hmm.
Where does he want to get? More than just, this good guy, cheated that one time and I'm annoyed by it.
I don't know, dude. The idea of Reigns like actually going heel as OTC, or at least tweener heel, getting Jacob under his thumb, doing all this, and then Drew McIntyre returning as a babyface and getting a huge pop in Europe. I don't know, man. That'd be pretty sick.
Yeah.
Be pretty sick.
I would love a Drew McIntyre face turn of some kind. Like, it works. That's what I just mean by something a little bit different.
All right. That wraps up the WWE Clash in Italy Ultimate Preview Vintage. As we conclude this segment, let's provide our pre-show expectation grades. You have put over this card as something extraordinary. So I am anticipating a very high expectation grade coming into WWE Clash in Italy.
It has to be an A because of the card, because of the stakes, because of the 4 champions plus a Brock match.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm going to go A, but I'm going to go low A, which is what, a 94?
Lowest would be 93, I believe.
Okay, I'll go 93A because we may get no title changes. That's the only thing keeping it. I always talk about things that matter happening on the show. And if we don't get it, I picked Sol Ruka to beat Becky,
mm-hmm.
but we don't think Roman or Cody is losing. We don't think Rhea's losing. Brock's probably the heavy favorite. If it plays out as expected, that keeps it from being a higher A.
Agreed.
But I have to give credit where it's due. They have completely loaded up this card to an unbelievable degree, something we never see in wrestling outside of SummerSlam
mm-hmm.
and WrestleMania, which themselves are 2 nights. So we never even see this on a single night anymore.
Not recently. No.
And so I'm going to have to give that a low A.
Yeah, this is a absolutely loaded card. My concerns are similar. I don't know if the booking will allow it to get to the A level. Now, they can do interferences and distractions and returns and stuff and still have it be booked well. There could be title changes. There could not be title changes. It doesn't have to be 5 clean finishes to be an A card. But I'm going to pick nits and split hairs with you. Not pick nits. I'm going to split hairs with you. I don't believe I can give it an A expectation grade. So I'm actually going to go just 1 point lower. 92 A minus is my expectation coming in. That allows them to exceed my expectation. Hit an A. But I can't, just the way WWE books it not being a SummerSlam or a WrestleMania or a Royal Rumble, it's extremely tough to go into any show, even with a card this strong, and believe it will definitely be an A. But it is the highest other grade I can give it coming in, and that is a 92 A minus. We've been back and forth with our, polling of all of you before and after premium live events and pay-per-views. There have been some time conflicts. Twitter hasn't really done well with the poll functionality recently, but for WWE Clash in Italy, we're going to be posting pre and post-show polls, not only on Twitter at Getting Overcast, but also our Slack channel. So make sure you join the Slack. It is completely free. The link is in our social media profiles, and you'll be able to vote in the polls there. You'll be able to converse with a ton of listeners. I want to say we're nearly at 200 members of the Slack, which is pretty damn good for something that is just kind of free and random. And Vintage and I do try to, interact with many of you there. Of course, it's for all of you, not necessarily for us, but it is a fun ecosystem for the show. So make sure you join that Slack channel and make sure you follow us across the board on social media at Getting Overcast on Twitter and Blue Sky. You get episode drops, news, analysis, highlights. You can send in questions and comments for the show. You can vote in the pre and post show polls on Twitter, at least for WWE Clash in Italy. On YouTube, you subscribe over there. You can listen to the show and you can watch full-length video interviews as well. Again, the Slack link is in the profile of both of those accounts. Find us on social media at Getting Overcast. Also, please remember,
I happen to love the number 5.
And I hope you do as well. $5 a month, $50 for the entire year. You can become an official Getting Overhead. Just visit buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Sign up. You will get bonus audio, the fastest 5 minutes in professional wrestling, instant reactions to every major show, and exclusive news analysis posts every week. Please support us as we deliver performance-enhancing audio to your ear holes. That money goes directly to keeping the show on the air, and anything extra is just beer money for the Silver King and Vintage. Get extra content, support us at the same time. Buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Also remember,
It's all about the 5.
so head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave a 5-star rating on Apple. Take a little extra time. Leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read it live right here on the show. Getting Over will be back twice more this week. On Thursday, we'll talk all things NXT and AEW. We'll also have an ultimate preview for AAA Noche de los Grandes, where Vintage will actually provide some of his perspective, just getting into the brand for the first time ahead of their biggest show since WWE has bought the company. And then, of course, on Sunday, as soon as WWE Clash in Italy goes off the air, we will have an instant analysis for you, breaking down all the results with grades, reactions, and much more. You are not going to want to miss it. Make sure you subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts to, of course, the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. For Vintage Chris Vanini, this is the Silver King, Adam Silverstein, signing off and leaving you with just 3 final words. Bye for now.